All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to call our meeting to order. It is 5:34 p.m. Today is Tuesday, October the 21st, and this is the Wake County Board of Education's regular business meeting. We do have a quorum today, so we will proceed with the agenda. The first item is I'd like to ask all of you who are able to stand to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. So the first official item on our meeting agenda is adoption of a meeting agenda.
Mr. Chair.
Vice Chair Swanson.
Mr. Chair, I move for the adoption of the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Vice Chair Swanson. Is there a second to Vice Chair Swanson's motion? We have a second from Ms. Gordon. Board members, all in favor of adopting tonight's agenda, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the agenda has passed, and we will move to the first item on the agenda, which is an item under academic achievement. This will be our 2025 School Health Advisory Council recommendations and commendations from the SHAC. I see Mr. Glendenning. We'll welcome you up to the podium with any other speakers.
Good evening, Chair Haggerty, members of the school board, and Superintendent Taylor. My name is Brian Glendenning. I'm the Director of Health and Physical Education for our wonderful school system, and I'm also liaison to the School Health Advisory Council. The School Health Advisory Council, also known as the SHAC, is charged with providing recommendations to the Board of Education and the Superintendent. These recommendations are in alignment with the 10 areas of the whole child, whole school, whole community model. This year marks the 35th anniversary of the Wake SHAC. Michelle Mulvihill is the current co-chair, and she is here to give the council's annual report.
Thank you, Brian. Good evening, Chair Haggerty, esteemed board members, and Superintendent Taylor. My name is Michelle Mulvihill, and I currently serve as the co-chair of the SHAC. I am also a product of Wake County Public Schools, as well as have 2 of my 4 kiddos in Wake County Public Schools as well. This evening, we're here to present the annual report for the Wake County School Health Advisory Council. Each year, we provide recommendations and commendations for the school system on a variety of health and wellness topics. The Healthy Active Child Policy outlines the use of the whole school, whole community, whole child, or WISC model for SHAC representation. Each year, we review our SHAC membership with the goal of having representation from each area of the whole school, whole community, whole child, or WISC model. We currently have representation in each area. We are always looking for new members and welcome recommendations and participation. We are additionally working on the best way to engage students in our meeting. Also, we would like to recognize Paula DeLuca and her commitment to children, nutrition, and the SHAC, and wish her best of luck in her retirement, which was last year. The next two slides provide the framework for our annual report as directly taken from Board Policy 6140, the Wake County Student Wellness Policy. It states that a local SHAC is to be established and maintained. This council has an important charge to assess the students and employee needs along with the school environments, including policies and regulations, to help raise awareness about school health and wellness within Wake County Public School System. Then the council is to be comprised of representatives of the school system, the health department, and community organizations, and shall provide periodic updates to the board, which is why I'm here tonight. Throughout the 2024-2025 school year, we heard from a number of presenters on a variety of health and wellness topics. We will go through the commendations and recommendations for the topics on the upcoming slides. Please feel free to ask any questions that you may have along the way. In the beginning of last year, we heard from Toward Zero Waste about the SHARE program, which is a food recovery program to capture wholesome foods left over that can fill up students instead of landfills. We commend the support of the pilot program that included 8 schools: Davis Drive Elementary, Dillard Drive Elementary, Kingswood Elementary, Lincoln Heights Elementary, Millbrook Elementary, Poe Elementary, Wake Forest Elementary, and Wiley Elementary. For recommendations, we encourage the board to learn more about the SHARE program and are glad to hear that the SHARE program presented to the Facilities Committee in June. We also recommend the support of the expansion of the program into 10 more schools this year, including some middle schools in addition to elementary schools, such as Lufkin Road Middle, Partnership Elementary, Moore Square Middle, North Garner Middle, Underwood Elementary, Apex Elementary, Douglas Elementary, Barclay Elementary, Wake Forest Middle, and Cary Elementary. Additionally, as a SHAC, we would continue to monitor the SHARE tables across the state and in Wake County. We will also support making connections between organizations and the schools to support this program. Our next topic was around the survey of students, specifically in regards to the Youth Risk Behavior Survey and the Youth Tobacco Survey. The SHAC has long supported and advocated for the use of the YRBS and YTS data to obtain local Wake County specific data to understand student wellness. This data is often requested when looking for grant opportunities to support wellness programs and topics. We commend the board for updating the policy to allow YRBS and YTS to be administered as opt-out. In regards to recommendations, we would like to continue to see support and communications to principals about the importance of obtaining local data and oversampling to ensure this data. As a SHAC, we will work with local PTAs to support volunteers for classroom support if needed by a school to administer the survey. As a SHAC, we also discussed the technology policy during our meetings. We commend the board for taking action on this important topic even prior to this becoming a state requirement. We also commend the input requested by parents, students, and the community, along with benchmarking throughout the state to ensure the best possible policy while taking many voices into consideration. The board is also commended for a district-wide approach on this policy. We would like to recommend that the board continue with the 3-phase plan to continue the development of the 4 to 5 year technology policy and ask that this be shared with the SHAC throughout the year. Social media is another area of concern with regards to technology, and it is briefly mentioned in the bullying policy. We would like to ask that this topic be considered for continued discussion and updates to either the technology policy or the bullying policy 1710 to protect our students and our staff. We heard from Kendrick Scott regarding safety and security. We commend the full implementation of the visitor monitoring system throughout the county and the implementation of and promotion of the See Something, Say Something initiative. We would recommend a review of the impact of the implementation of the cell phone policy on safety and security, as this was voiced as a concern during the focus groups. Finally, we recommend continued review of opportunities to implement other priority projects that have been previously identified. In May, we heard from Tanyetta Sutton and members of the Youth Mental Health Advisory Group. We commend the formation of this advisory group and having a representative from each high school. We received a presentation from students at Apex Friendship High School and encouraged continued activities from this group. We recommend additional staff and students training around mental wellness, which could be coordinated with the employee wellness staff. Additionally, we think it's important to continue to explore adding more information about stress and stress management, along with sexual assault topics, to the curriculum or program offerings. As a SHAC, we would like to continue to stay connected with the Youth Mental Health Advisory Group to offer support and connect the group with resources where possible. In February, we had Assistant Superintendent Michelle Woodson provide the SHAC with an update on crisis intervention and prevention efforts throughout the district. We are excited to hear that the mental health appointments are now available to students via telehealth, something we've recommended to the board and district in previous years. Also, we commend the district on the implementation of the See Something, Say Something initiative, the Prepare model, school-based crisis prevention and intervention, and the RAVE app for teachers to communicate with first responders during perceived and potential crises. We understand that during the 2024-2025 school year, the district was notified of a multi-million-dollar school-based mental health grant to increase the district's capacity for mental health needs at every school. While the the U.S. Department of Ed has since canceled the grant award, we would still like to commend the district on their initial award and commitment to school-based mental health services. We recommend that the board and the district to communicate with parents and families more broadly about the Prepare model. Also, we would recommend the expansion and promotion of the telehealth services for mental health appointments for teachers, staff, not just for students and families. Also, during our February meeting, we heard about School Meals for All, which is a statewide initiative advocating for every child in every public school in North Carolina to have access to breakfast and lunch at school at no cost for their families. While advocacy partners are still working towards School Meals for All, we commend the board for creating the Angel Fund as a stopgap for School Meals for All, expanding the community eligibility provision with CNS, and for engaging the Wake County Board of County Commissioners in supporting School Meals for All. We recommend updating the wellness policy to explicitly prohibit punishment for students who have school meal debt, punishment such as prohibiting them from participating in school activities or engaging with debt collectors and CPS. We also recommend continued support for CEP implementation, especially with identified student percentage or ISP rates changing for this program. Additionally, as a SHAC, we continue to communicate and educate about the CEP program and watch the General Assembly bills related to school meals, and will provide comments and support. We also heard from Wake County Public Health's Safe Routes to School program and appreciated the board's continued support for the All Kids Bike program. For the 2025-2026 school year, a new bike sharing pilot program will enable 4 new schools to include bike skill educations in their PE curriculum. With the addition of those schools and 2 others who purchased for the program on their own, 11 schools will be teaching their students how to ride a bike during PE class this current school year. Southeast Raleigh, Powell, Conn, Millbrook, Lincoln Heights, Lynn Road, Jeffries Grove, Carver, Forestville, Green, and Stowe Elementaries. That's over double from the previous year. We also commend the board for their support for walk, bike, and roll to school days within their districts. Over 50 schools participated in the events during the 2024-2025 school year, and there's more this year too. Lastly, we appreciate the district support and promotion of the middle school bike safety poster contest. For the All Kids Bike program, we would recommend establishing a standardized process for bike maintenance and for efficiently moving bikes between schools in the sharing program. This helps ensures the programs run smoothly and sustainably. We also recommend developing and implementing clear metrics to track the program's impact and success. For our SHAC recommendations, we will emphasize the need to get more information out to the PTAs about the All Kids Bike program, especially regarding the school sharing option for bikes. And we will work on inviting school board members to attend a PE class where All Kids Bike is being implemented, as this hands-on experience can really underscore the program's value. SHAC revisited discussion around the proposed cell phone policy once it was recommended as a separate policy from the proposed technology policy. We commend the board on taking action on this important topic even prior to it becoming a state requirement, and their thoughtful considerations around definitions, exemptions, and emergency use. We applaud the district and the board for already addressing cyberbullying and cyber harassments in policies 1710, 4021, 7230, prohibition against discrimination, harassment, and bullying, as these were concerns and considerations raised during the discussion of the cell phone policy with the SHAC. We recommend continued communication to parents, students, and staff around students of personal wireless communication devices and prohibition against discrimination, harassment, and bullying policies. As the SHAC, we plan to inquire about how the implementation of the cell phone policy went during the 2025-2026 school year. In April, our own Brian Glendenning provided us with a dual settlement funding update regarding the previously BOE-approved plans. We appreciate the board's support of the use of dual settlement funds in alignment with the proposed WCPSS tobacco and vaping prevention plan. We recommend to the board continue supporting the use of the dual settlement funds for what they were intended, ensuring reallocation of funds that are replenished, support and ensure progress is made with building the dual funding district infrastructure, including the hiring of 3 positions. As a SHAC, we will continue to request twice a year reports to stay informed about the initiative's progress. In May, SHAC heard from Child Nutrition Services. We commend the district and the board on increasing the number of community-eligible provision schools, or CEP schools, from 12 to 44 for the 2024-2025 school year, and collecting a total of $107,000 in annual fund donations, enough to provide and cover 4,800 breakfasts and more than 21,000 lunches. CNS also offered a culturally relevant foods in the cafeteria of certain schools this past year, an initiative that was met with much excitement. For recommendations, we recommend promoting the purchase of school breakfast, including signing up for FNS benefits, monitoring legislation and funding changes and how they will impact CNS. Evaluate how to support CNS with any funding decreases, for example, the loss of the local foods for schools grants, meaning less fresh fruits and vegetables for school meals, or if there are any changes in the CEP program, to name a few. Support purchasing fresh foods in schools and continue to increase the number of CEP schools. As SHAC, we will encourage CNS to work with additional partners, including School Meals for All and Towards Zero Waste, on aligning priorities and initiatives. Lastly, SHAC examined topics having a direct impact on WCPSS. Examples include, but are not limited to, Tobacco 21, the cell phone policy bill in the North Carolina General Assembly, DEI impacts from the federal level, and the Board of Education at the federal level. We commend the board on immediately engaging the legal team to interpret executive orders and how they affect the school system. As a SHAC, we plan to continue to monitor the legislative landscape at both the state and federal levels. I thank you for your time this evening. If you would like any further information about the presentation, please don't hesitate to reach out to us directly or via Board Member Edmonds. We really appreciate the opportunity to come and present on all that we have learned this year.
All right, thank you very much. We appreciate the commendations and the recommendations. Ms. Edmonds.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And hey, Jen, I waved at you, but you didn't see me. It's good to have y'all here, and I appreciate the report. I hope that Chair Haggerty and our Vice Chair Swanson, that will seriously consider a standing agenda item to review legislative issues. I think that's a great idea. And I just want to lift up the work of the SHAC and the people that are involved. The meetings, I'm the board liaison to the SHAC, and the meetings are always very thoughtful and robust. You all are really good at bringing in, great, whether it's staff or community partners, to explore the topics and things that are of concern to you. And I commend you for all that work behind the scenes. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Edmonds. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So the next item on our agenda tonight is the public hearing on the WCPSS enrollment plan for 2026-2027. So only public comments pertaining to the enrollment plan are permissible during the public hearing. This is a special time set up just for those residents to come out here and address the board directly. We will have our regular public comment period following the public hearing. For those of you that are participating, each speaker will be given 2 minutes to present remarks. You will see a yellow light on the podium that will light up when you have 30 seconds remaining in your time, and then a red light when your time is up. Now, we also know tonight there are a couple speakers who will require some translation services. We're going to have to play a few games with the time up there. If the time goes off during comments that are being translated, they won't get cut off prematurely. We'll make sure that we do have the full and allotted time for that. Now, Wake County Board of Education meetings are conducted for the purposes of carrying out the official business of the board. Per policy 2310, persons who willfully interrupt, disrupt, or cause disturbances at an official meeting may be directed to leave by the presiding officer. Members of the audience should show respect for the speakers by refraining from loud comments or other disruptions. Disruptions by any person or persons at a public meeting will be subject to action in accordance with GS 143 through 1817. And again, the importance here is please be respectful of the other speakers, whether you support them, whether you disagree with them. Disruptions during their comments can distract, it can rattle their train of thought, and again, it takes a lot of courage to get up here in a public setting to give those remarks, so let's be respectful of all of our speakers. What we do is, as our practice, we do have some students that wish to address us tonight, so we want to give priority to them first during that public hearing. So what we'd like to do is I will go to the list of students wishing to speak first, we'll hear from them, and then we'll move to our other public hearing speakers. All right? So according to our agenda, our itinerary here, our first student speaker tonight will be Francis Raziv Prasad Fernando, speaking on the student enrollment plan. Is Mr. Fernando here? All right, if he's not in here yet, but if he comes in before the end of the hearing, we will put him back on the agenda at the end. So our next speaker, student speaker, is Niraj Mathur. Is Niraj here? Okay, so everything I just said in reference to Mr. Fernando will apply to Mr. Mathur as well. All right, how about Akinwol Garrett? All right. Well, we'll move on to our other public speakers for our public hearing, and then if the students arrive, we will give them an opportunity to speak before we move into public comment. So our first speaker on our public hearing is Shravan Narkundar, who will be followed by Shailu Roy Garrett. Good evening.
Hello, thank you for listening to our comments. With only 2 minutes, I'm just going to get right into it. Please stop using your time and resources to move families into underperforming schools. Please instead use those resources to improve the quality of the schools so that more families will want to move to areas already bound to those schools. This proposal makes no sense, and it's completely unfair to those of us who spend extra time, money, and resources to live in areas already there. If I'd wanted to send my child to those schools, I could have saved several hundreds of thousands of dollars to live in those neighborhoods. In addition, there are several better elementary schools right around the corner from us that do not have enrollment caps, like Highcroft and Mills Park, that we can ride our bike to and get there. And instead, the proposal is to send my child to downtown Apex, 15 or 20 minutes away by car. You're making it harder for families to justify moving to Cary, unsure if their kids will be sent to random schools for no reason at all. You're prioritizing new builders instead of existing families and are taking money out of our pockets and giving it to them instead, while also destroying our quality of life and the goals for our children. If you absolutely must do this, then at least include a provision that grandfathers in those of us who live here already and continue to live in the zones, including people on the wait list, so that existing families can continue to build their communities around the schools that we signed up for, and families new to the area will at least have an idea of the schools that are there. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Charlie Roy Garrett, who will be followed by Nazia Ahmad Kulan.
Good evening. My name is Sheila Garrett. I'm a resident of the Crestmont community in Apex, a current White Oak Elementary parent and a future Mills Park Middle School parent. I'm here to respectfully urge this board to grandfather current students in their proposed reassignment. I understand the district needs immediate relief, but I also ask that you consider the long-term impact on families like mine, who are already established and deeply engaged with our school communities. Our children are not just enrollment numbers. They've built lasting relationships with their teachers and their peers, and uprooting them now disrupts far more than academics. It undermines their emotional and social stability during key developmental years. Stability transfers have been offered, but they come with no transportation. For working families like mine, that's not a realistic option. Managing different school calendars and commutes places a heavy burden on our families and our careers just to keep children where they already are. We know that grandfathering does not solve crowding overnight, but it offers something more sustainable, a break in the cycle of disruption that has continued over the last few years for Wake County. Without it, families like ours are moved out, only to watch new developments fill in and potentially face rezoning themselves later. That's not a fair, stable, or forward-thinking plan. The administration mentioned that smaller communities like Crestmont were cobbled together to create impact, but grouping neighborhoods for convenience does not justify the impact on disruption of families that are already settled and thriving. Disruption should not be the default just because it's easier. Please let the children of Crestmont community remain in the schools that they are in now. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Nazia Ahmad Gulan, who will be followed by Sarah McPherson.
Good evening, and thank you for your time. I am a resident of the Pines community, and I'm here today to express our community's firm and united opposition to the current rezoning proposal. The information session last month made it abundantly clear that this plan was developed really, honestly, without sufficient long-term planning or meaningful communication. The result is a proposal that truly treats our children as numbers on a map, fundamentally disregarding their educational stability and the well-being of our established neighborhood. It is, I honestly think it is unacceptable that the Pines community, and I've conferred with a lot of parents there as well, that we should be forced to bear the cost of this failure. This rezoning will disrupt the lives of students who have built friendships and academic momentum, and it really shatters the peace of mind of families who choose our community for its schools. So we are not simply data points. We are a community of families who are deeply invested in our children's futures. Uprooting our students is not a solution. It is a disruption that will have real and lasting consequences. And we urge you to listen to our voices, the voices of the families, the voices of the children. We ask that you withdraw this specific proposal and commit to a more transparent, collaborative process that does not solve one problem by creating another at the direct expense of our families. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sarah McPherson, who will be followed by Human Hushiar.
Hi. First of all, we just moved here from California, and one of the reasons that we moved here was for the Wake County School District. So thank you for creating a wonderful school district where our child can thrive. Having said that, so we are in the district that is being proposed to shift from White Oak to Turner Creek. My daughter, Sachka, who is 5, committed the unforgivable crime of being born in September instead of August. And so since the EKE program doesn't allow kids to apply until school is already in session, we submitted her application the same morning that we were allowed to, and of course she was still waitlisted. She goes to Davis Drive now, the overflow school, and she's completely thriving there. But because she's waitlisted for White Oak, the stability process that's in place allows her neighbor friends to keep attending White Oak while she's forced to attend Turner Creek or Baucom. We moved here for the schools, and now my daughter and kids like her, it seems like they're sort of being punished for it. So please don't pass this proposal. This is not really sustainable. And I appreciate the fact that this area of the country is so accepting of the giant influx of tech people from California. And I'm so glad that we moved here. And I'm hoping that my kid can attend the school that we came here for. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Human Hushiar, followed by Dev Vishwakarma. Yes, and if you do have materials that you wish to distribute to the board, please bring them up to Mr. Ramey, sitting here at the edge of the table, either before or after your comments, and that way it won't count against any of your time. All right? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good evening. My name is Human. I'm here on behalf of the Sutherland community. We have been here before in this public hearing. We have submitted a petition on behalf of the community. First, I want to thank the board, Mr. Chair, for this opportunity to speak here tonight. Also, I want to thank the staff. I know this is not an easy topic. I know there's a lot of variables, a lot of parameters, a lot of thought that goes into this process. I also don't want to speak to the personal hardships that this is causing for a lot of the people in my community. I do want to bring up some highlights, some main concerns for our community. First and foremost, our community has been experiencing multiple calendar changes. So a few years ago, we were initially assigned to Turner Creek Elementary and Salem Middle. Both of them are year-round school. Then we were reassigned to White Oak Elementary and Mills Park Middle, which are traditional schools. And now we are being reassigned again back to Turner Creek and Salem Middle. So this constant flip-flopping, for lack of a better word, is causing some confusion and instability for the members of our community. Second, our neighborhood represents only about 25 students that go to White Oak Elementary. It's not in itself, it's not a big enough number to make a big impact on the overall enrollment numbers at White Oak Elementary. Third, the Sutherland community is actually the closest community in the closest neighborhood to White Oak on the new proposed Turner Creek map. From a proximity, transportation, bus route standpoint, it's difficult for us to understand how this is efficient. And then finally, I want to appreciate that a calendar option was added as an option for the elementary school, but that's Baucom. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. And Baucom is 6 miles away from our neighborhood. So I can only imagine how long the bus ride would be. So in summary, the multiple calendar changes, our proximity, the low number of students in our community, I want to respectfully ask the board to reconsider the assignment of Sutherland based on our request.
And that is your time. I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
Thank you. All right. Our next speaker is Dev Vishwakarma, who will be followed by Vishali Dasare.
Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I reside at Spirebed and in the neighborhood of Greenmore within Apex. And this is within the zone currently scheduled to be reassigned from Mills Park Middle School to Salem Middle School. And I speak tonight on behalf of my child, our family, and our whole neighborhood. When we purchased our home in this zone, we did so with the understanding that our child would attend Mills Park Middle, a school that is among the very best in our state, rated 10 on 10, constantly gets top 5% of the middle school in North Carolina. And the proposed reassignment to Salem Middle kind of causes several deep and fundamental concerns for us. While Salem may have strengths, the public reviews and data shows it does not have the same track record of excellence as the Mills Park Middle. Also, we made a long-term investment in our home and in our child's education based on the assignment to the Mills Park. This reassignment undermines that expectation and places our child at a disadvantage. And I understand reassignments are sometimes necessary for capacity or equity reasons, but my request is please grandfather the existing houses and kids that are currently assigned to go to Mills Park Middle. In closing, our children deserve stability, academic excellence, and fairness. I hope the board will hear our concerns and respond with a plan that honors the commitment families make, like ours, made when choosing the school zone. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Vishali Dasari, who will be followed by Gregory Paul Richards. Is Vishali here? All right, if Vishali is not here, we'll move to Gregory Paul Richards. Good evening, Mr. Richards.
Good evening. It's actually Dr. Richards, but thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Richards.
I have two sons at White Oak Elementary School, and I'm here today to urge the board to resoundingly reject the redistricting assignments. I'm actually surprised at the need to do so. The District 8 representative is not here today, not because they're sick or on vacation, but because we don't have a representative. It astonishes me, it appalls me that the staff would even consider a change to our district when our district does not have a voice or a vote on this board. Our country was founded on no taxation without representation, and we have no representation here. Please consider to reject this proposal this year and reconsider it in the following year when we do have a voice. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Have any of our students come into the room, either Mr. Fernando, Mathur, or Garrett? All right. If not, we'll declare the public hearing concluded, and we'll move on to our public comment period. All right. So for our public comment, this is a similar procedure to what you've heard. Speakers commenting on items on tonight's agenda will speak first, followed by our speakers commenting on other topics. Again, only the person who is speaking may be at the podium and be standing at that time. All of the attendees should remain seated while someone else is speaking. Concerns related to specific personnel issues or student matters may be addressed through WCPSS personnel, the grievance policy, or the applicable policies. If you've brought one of those concerns before you leave, please talk to a member of staff who might be able to assist you before you leave tonight. In the interest of maintaining order and decorum, speakers are encouraged to address their comments to the Board of Education up here and must refrain from personal attacks and insults directed at other speakers, individual board members, staff, or members of the general public. All commenters are asked to remember that children often attend these meetings and to keep their comments substantive and civil. So if you are speaking tonight, please remain at the podium during your speaking time. As I mentioned, if you have materials to share, we welcome those. Please give them to Mr. Ramey either before or after your comment, so that doesn't take any, take away from any of your allotted time. The public comment speakers may speak for up to 3 minutes. Please notice the microphones are adjustable. You can adjust them to whatever height you need before you speak. And as I said, the green light will, when it comes on, that indicates your time has started. When it turns yellow, that indicates you have 30 seconds left. You'll hear one audible tone. When you hear that second tone, that's when you need to stop, because that's when we're going to call the next speaker up to make sure we get through all of our speakers on time and we get everybody home at a decent hour tonight. Again, I think we've covered everything. Speakers are asked to respect that time limit, speak no more than 3 minutes. And I believe that's it. We do have a number of speakers tonight, but we're going to start. We have one speaker on an on-agenda item, Drew Washington, speaking on school improvement plans, and then we'll start on the remainder of our speakers. So on deck, we'll have Mr. Danny Coleman. So is Drew Washington here? All right. Welcome, Drew.
All right. Well, good afternoon to all of the members of the school board. My name is Drew Washington, and I serve as a youth organizer for Education Justice Alliance. And today I'd just like to briefly speak on the rollout of school improvement plans in accordance to the General Assembly's policy. So the first thing I noticed with the General Assembly's policy regarding the school improvement plans was the lack of a requirement for student input on school improvement teams. As someone who does continuous advocacy work with youth, I know that students have the answers to the problems that they themselves are facing. The absence of youth voice on school matters reinforces adult-centered decision-making and limits youth participation in shaping environments that affect their academic and emotional well-being. If we truly want to improve the performance of our students, it is vital that we meet them where they are. Another thing that stood out to me in the general statute was the prioritization of data-driven assessments that is required in the student improvement plan development process. While data is very important, I would like to argue that prioritizing the lived experiences of students and families is equally, if not more important. If we want to create a space that is truly to the benefit of students, we must approach education as a human right and not a business plan. I want to also note that the school improvement plans address safety and discipline concerns. We know that safety is a priority for our students, meaning that with these plans, we must honor every aspect of their safety. It is important to ensure that students feel safe not only physically, but academically and emotionally. So I'm asking the school board members to work to ensure that the pillars of student voice, lived experience, and emotional well-being are honored as schools come together to structure their own improvement plans. When we build power with students, we don't just improve performance, we build the kinds of schools that every young person deserves. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Washington. All right. Our next speaker will be Daniel Coleman, who will be followed by Carol Gartrell.
Good evening,
Good evening.
members of the Wake County Board of Education, staff, and attendees. My name is Daniel Coleman, and again I rise to speak. I may be more knowledgeable than my last time standing before you. Tonight I wish to request the following. The enhanced design narrative as referenced in the agreement for design consultant services between WCPSS and LSP3 Associates Limited for the Ligon Magnet MS Major Renovation and Replacement, project number 8620458, dated December 17, 24. Furthermore, I'm requesting from the same document found in Article 1, subsection 1.7, the milestone schedule referenced in Exhibit C of the same document. You all understand where I stand, keeping Ligon as a beacon on top of the hill. But to be fair to the process, that seems to be a mystery to most that care on the local level. We should have access to that information and any other information, especially costs of the major renovation and or replacement costs. Thank you again, Dan Coleman.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Carol Gartrell, who will be followed by Miguel Figueres.
Good evening, Chairman Haggerty and Superintendent Taylor and other board members. I just want to reiterate our interest in keeping Ligon at the top of the hill, primarily because we have information that the initial plan was for renovation and replacement, and that these plans included relocating the building at the bottom of the hill and back of the school. And it's very concerning when, we hear one thing from the board and we hear something else from the planning or developers. We know that the need is tremendous. The school is 75 years old. It's like infrastructure in the city. If it's not maintained, it's just worse and it's more costly. We are all for the renovations necessary. We have grandkids in these schools still, where we went. But we want to make sure that the vision remains visible where it is at 709 Lenoir Street. We are against rebuilding it at the bottom of the hill in back of the school. So we just appeal to you for your consideration for more transparency and more communication with the community. We met in May 15th. That's 5 months ago. We are told there will be another meeting November 24th. That's 6 months since the first one. There have been some smaller closed meetings with some hand-picked persons to represent the community, and it does not. So we do appeal to you for your consideration for more information and to make certain that our school remains visible as Broughton is. There were revisions and renovations made for Broughton, but they didn't wipe it off of Peace Street, and we don't want Ligon wiped off of Lenoir. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Miguel Figueres, who will be followed by Luisa Escobar. Good evening. Oh, 1 second before you start.
I'm a parent organizer for Education Justice Alliance, and we're all here, the blue shirts, as part of the Dignities in School campaign. Because okay.
Buenas noches, yo soy Miguel Figueres y estoy aquí a nombre de la membresía de nosotros. Estamos aquí todos usando camisetas azules.
Because we still believe that education is a human right.
Todavía porque nosotros todavía queremos y creemos que la educación es un derecho humano.
And one of the parents could not be here because he did not feel safe being in this space the way the times are in the United States. So I'm going to be reading his comment, if that's okay.
Y dice, yo estoy aquí porque estoy a nombre de un padre que no pudo venir porque tiene miedo de venir y, por seguridad.
Hola, mi nombre es Dixon y soy padre de 2 niños en las escuelas públicas de Wake.
Hello, my name is Dixon and I am the father of 2 children in Wake County Public Schools.
Comparto hoy no como crítico, sino como un socio comprometido con el futuro de cada niño.
I share today not as a critic, but as a partner committed to the future of each child.
He dedicado tiempo a reflexionar sobre lo que realmente nutre el potencial de nuestros hijos. Y la conclusión es simple. El miedo no se enseña a nuestros hijos. Lo hacen la comunidad y la imaginación.
So I have spent time reflecting on what really nurtures the potential of our children, and the conclusion is simple. Fear does not teach our children. Community and imagination do.
En sus escuelas hay niños que no saben si al llegar a la casa sus padres estarán. Yo te pregunto hoy, ¿piensas tú que un estudiante puede sobresalir en sus estudios con ese pensamiento en su mente constantemente?
In their schools, there are children who do not know if their parents will be there when they get home. And I ask you today, do you think that a student can excel in his studies with that thought in his mind constantly?
El miedo es el enemigo más antiguo del aprendizaje. Piensen en esto. Cuando un niño siente miedo por no entender la tarea, por la presión de un examen o por la sensación de ser vigilado, su cerebro se cierra. No puede innovar, no puede ser curioso, solo puede intentar sobrevivir.
Fear is the oldest enemy of learning. Think about this. When a child feels afraid for not understanding the task because of the pressure of an exam or because of the feeling of being watched, his brain closes. He can't innovate, he can't be curious, he can only try to survive.
Nuestra tarea como adultos responsables de su educación es reemplazar ese miedo con un ambiente de comunidad, creando un entorno donde sus errores son oportunidades y donde sus voces son escuchadas.
Our task as adults responsible for their education is to replace that fear with an environment of community, creating an environment where their mistakes are opportunities and where their voices are heard.
Reemplazado con imaginación, permitiéndoles explorar sin límites para que crezcan y se convierten en las soluciones de problemas. Si queremos grandes mentes, primero debemos calmar pequeños corazones.
We replace with imagination, allowing them to explore without limits so that they grow and become the problem solvers. If we want great minds, we must first calm down little hearts.
Esta es mi profunda convicción. Nuestras aulas deben ser santuarios y seguros para los estudiantes, no extensiones de prisiones.
This is my deep conviction. Our classrooms must be sanctuaries and safe for students, not prison extensions.
Un santuario es un lugar de refugio, donde se encuentra protección y apoyo incondicional. Esto significa tener consejeros de salud mental y personal de apoyo en el pasillo en vez de policías.
A sanctuary is a place of refuge where protection is and unconditional support is found. This means having mental health counselors and support staff in the hallway instead of a policeman.
Significa que cuando un niño tropieza, recibe ayuda, socorro y terapia, no la prisión.
It means that when a child stumbles, he receives help, relief, and therapy, not prison.
Si la Junta Escolar prioriza la vigilancia y la disciplina punitiva sobre el apoyo social y emocional, está enviando un señal devastadora.
If the school board prioritizes surveillance and punitive discipline over social and emotional support, it is sending a devastating signal.
Está convirtiendo las aulas en extensiones de prisiones, espacios donde la solución a la angustia es la exclusión, no empatía.
It is sending a devastating signal. It is turning classroom into prison extensions, spaces where the solution to anguish is exclusion, not empathy.
Señores de la Junta, su tarea es asegurar un entorno de aprendizaje para todos los estudiantes, no importa su raza, género, estatus o color. Hagamos las aulas de Wake un lugar donde cada niño se siente seguro para soñar, imaginar y sobre todo aprender. Gracias.
Members of the board, your task is to ensure a learning environment for all students regardless of their race, gender, status, or color. Let's make Wake classrooms a place where every child feels safe to dream, imagine, and above all, learn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is, hold on, I need to pull this up again. Luisa Escobar, who will be followed by Anirban Mukherjee. Is Luisa here? Okay, thank you. All right, we'll go to Anirban Mukherjee. And could you say your name for me? I'm sorry if I mispronounced it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Anirban Mukherjee, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk here. I belong to the Pines resident, that is Pines at Wake Crossing, and my daughter goes to White Oak Elementary School. And we moved here from Boston, and as all of my previous speakers echoed, so we do not support this enrollment proposal. And for a few reasons. First of all, when we moved from Boston, we spent a lot of time, money, effort, energy, everything, so that my daughter goes and all the community people go to the same school that we started with. And since I come from Boston, I would like to point out one particular thing, that they also have a great schooling system. And there, if there are new houses built, they do not get the schools. That's a very good policy that they have, which I think we should kind of consider. If there are new communities built, where we are talking about all the like new growth and stuff, they only give it to 55 plus communities with no commitment to school. Since we are having so much problems with the existing communities where we are not being grandfathered, that would be a very nice option, I would believe, which we can take from other states as a learning, that we build schools with 55 plus communities. And apart from that, as you have seen, like with all of these, I would not go into any specific example, but overall I would like to say, when you see not the entire community with this proposal is happy, I will not support that proposal, and I would request the team or the board to consider that not approving this proposal, because when the community is not happy, not everybody is happy, then things are not going in the right direction. With that, I would like to end my comment and appeal that if you can consider not approving this for this year. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Fernando Martinez, who will be followed by Christina Holzer.
I will also be speaking on behalf of our parents, so I will request interpretation as well. In the meantime, thank you so much, Board and Superintendent Taylor. Lo voy a leer en español.
¿Yo lo leo en español?
Yo lo leo en español y usted lo hace en inglés.
Okay. Me va haciendo yo le digo.
¿O prefiere usted que...?
No. Usted lo va a leer en español y yo en inglés.
Sí.
Okay. Dice, acaba de decir él, que él está aquí también, o sea, como representante de padres, y lo dijo en inglés. Entonces comienza.
Voy a leer esto de parte de una madre de familia, se llama Marcela Maldonado, porque ella me lo pidió.
I'm going to read this on behalf of Marcela Maldonado. It's a mother, and she asked me to do it for her.
Buenas tardes. Soy una madre, soy una persona que está activa en EJA, la Alianza por la Justicia en la Educación.
It's a good evening. I am a mother, and I am an active member of
Education Justice Alliance.
okay, this Justice Alliance for Education member.
Soy una madre de 5 hijos, 2 que ya están casados, una graduada de UNC y 2 estudiantes de prepa.
Okay, I am a mother of 5 children. 2 of them are already married. So one is already attending college, and one is in high school.
I'm also ESL student at Wade Tech Community College.
I am also an ESL student at.
Siga.
Yeah, good.
Siga.
Okay, so en español.
Soy también estudiante de inglés como segundo idioma de el Colegio Técnico del Condado.
I am also an ESL student at Wade Tech Community College, you know.
No cambiaremos la justicia por una falsa unidad.
We are not going to change justice for a false unity.
La vida de nuestros estudiantes no es negociable.
So the livelihood of our students is not negotiable.
Específicamente, un problema para mi familia es que mis hijas eligen materias optativas como finanzas, salud y cocina.
So one of the problems is that my daughters, pick, elective classes like finances,
Salud y cocina.
health, and cooking.
Y nunca han sido aceptadas en esas materias,
And they have never been accepted, to take these classes.
pero sí le dan materias como arte, gimnasio y español.
But they got enrolled and accepted in subjects and classes like arts, Spanish, and PE.
Si las materias con más demandas son escasas, por favor, abran el doble de clases de esas materias que son populares.
If these, classes that are very important and crucial for the development are in high demand, please open more spaces for more students to be able to take, these classes.
Espero que los directores de la escuela trabajen en conjunto con la Junta de Educación para resolver estos problemas y que ayuden a los estudiantes a tener un mejor futuro.
I hope, the school principals, can work in conjunction with you, members of the board, in order to make this, happen and have a better future.
Por favor, espero que mi voz sea escuchada, porque no es solo mi hija con esos problemas, sino hay otros padres que estamos aquí también buscando ayuda en este lugar.
I hope that my voice is heard, because it's not only me, there are several parents, who are facing these problems, and they need help and assistance from you.
Gracias por escuchar algunas de las preocupaciones escolares que tal vez ustedes no saben que existen.
Thank you for hearing and listening to my concerns, for the education of my children that maybe you are not aware of.
That concludes, gracias.
Yeah,
That concludes the mother statement. I still have 1 minute, so I would like to take advantage of that. I've been coming to this board for 13 years, and yes, a lot of things have been changing, and one specific example is the fact that we do now have access to interpretation. At the same time, my invitation to you is to come to our communities with more open mind to listen to the community's concerns. The political polarization we're living in right now is really impacting the families in a way that people are afraid. We are seeing that students don't feel safe to come to school. Parents don't feel safe to come to drop this kid at the schools. And also we start seeing an increase in bullying in the school environment due to the immigration, to the harsh immigration approaches that we're seeing right now. My invitation to you as decision makers is that you always have a two-way relationship with us. We will be happy to work with you and to put you in contact with community members so you can have a little more sense of all the challenges that people are going through in these times. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christina Holzer, who will be followed by Tony Arias. And if you want to wait just 1 minute, we'll let some folks head out before you begin. All right, thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Christina Holzer, and I'm a veterinarian, and I'm also president of the Cary Homeschools organization. And this is my son, Avery Holzer. He is currently a homeschool 8th grader and will be a 9th grader next year. We're here tonight to ask the board to consider a pathway forward where Avery could join the Athens High School Marching Band next year. Avery has met with the high school marching band at a practice and also their middle school meet and greet. And he was invited to play the drums out on the field with them. He had such a wonderful time. I was a marching band member as a child, and so I understand the time commitment and also the benefits that you learn from being a part of something so significant. Avery is already friends with many members in the band through his interactions in scouting, and it would be endlessly meaningful to him and our family for him to have this experience. I'm new to this process, but I've come to understand there's a policy in North Carolina that allows homeschool children to join extracurricular programs with permission of the school system. Wake County has a policy number 6860 that currently does not allow this opportunity. For homeschool children, it is very, very difficult to find a way to be part of large musical groups. We can join lots of clubs and co-ops and classes, but music is a really hard thing for us to access. As a homeschool mom, I do appreciate the time, the effort, and the work that goes into organizing programs for children. While I can imagine there would be some challenges to allowing homeschool children to join these activities, I'd appreciate the opportunity to collaborate and synergize with the school system. There's currently a bill called the Senate Bill 48, and it is well positioned to be passed within the next year or so. And it would, at a state level, allow all homeschoolers to join all extracurricular activities. As Scoutmaster of our local Scout troop, I have been part of the challenging integration of females into what is previously named the Boy Scouts of America. They used a pilot trial program to integrate really small groups of Scouts prior to full inclusion. And anticipation of this bill that is potentially passing, I wonder if we could consider a small pilot program with the music department, if that would be possible in the Wake County school system in the upcoming year. I really thank you all for your consideration and the time it would take to think about it and all the extra work that it might involve for all of you. I hope you have a good evening, and thank you.
All right, thank you. Our next speaker tonight is Tony Arias, who will be followed by Ramaya Robinson.
Thank you, school board members. My name is Tony Arias, and I am a community organizer with the Education Justice Alliance here in Wake County. I also help coordinate Public School Strong, so I'm speaking here as an organizer, community member, and supporter of public schools, but tonight, most importantly, as a former teacher myself. I want to chime in into the conversation that has already been shared about the fears that continue to impact our students and our families from showing up. And I want to share a little bit about my experience as a teacher, because what was always important for me, as I'm sure it was for many teachers, is to make sure that my students feel in control of their own learning. As a teacher, I felt responsible for helping my students engage with questions bigger than themselves and providing the tools necessary for them to engage with those questions on their own time, inside and outside of my classroom. I believe our students deserve the space and time to engage with big questions, to be curious, and to know how, and to know and not know in ways that feel appropriate to their age and development. And generally, you know, we don't teach a first grader how to write a 5-paragraph essay, and you don't teach a second grader long division because they're still developing the tools to understand these concepts at a later age. However, you know, child development strongly informs what we teach and when we teach it, and yet all of our students, no matter how young or old, are able to experience fear in schools. A young student is able to experience uncertainty no matter where they are in their development. And as you've heard it already tonight, fear won't teach our children. But I'm afraid that if our schools fail to prioritize protecting our students and families from being fearful, then we are not acting in the best interest of our students' needs. As this board prepares to approve policies such as Policy 7405, which deals with teacher responsibilities and duties, my hope is that you all don't lose sight on what teachers already are responsible for and the depth of support needed to meet that responsibility. Before continuing to add more responsibility to our teachers, consider the lack of support our teachers already experience. And again, emphasizing teacher training and development is so essential, especially on social emotional learning, racial equity, and racial trauma, and using trauma-informed practices, which, by the way, if any of those terms feel still foreign or messy to implement, that's what we're here to help you understand and do as well. I know this because of my experience as a teacher and because many teachers I worked with felt the same way. Again, fear will not teach our children unless we allow it to do so. This board has the power to make a difference by putting our children first. Doing so is to acknowledge and prioritize the importance of social emotional learning in our classrooms and the reality that teachers already hold the social emotional well-being of their students in their own hands. And our school leaders have the responsibility to equip our teachers to meet those needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ramaya Robinson, who will be followed by Serena Johnson. That's all right. We got you.
Our 4-year-old fell asleep during this, so we are multitasking. All right. Okay. If he wake up, he gonna scream, so. Good evening. My name is Ramaya, and I'm a youth organizer who works with high school students across Wake County with Education Justice Alliance. I'm also a graduate of Southeast Raleigh High School, whoop whoop. I get to hear directly from students about what schools feel like for them, the good, the bad, and everything in between. And one thing I hear over and over is that school doesn't always feel like a place where they can be themselves. For a lot of students, the classroom feels more like a place where they're being controlled than supported. There are constant rules, surveillance, and punishments, but not enough trust, care, or understanding. When young people feel like they're being treated as problems to manage instead of people to nurture, it changes how they show up. It's hard to learn when you feel unsafe or unseen. Classrooms should be spaces where students feel respected and encouraged, places that inspire curiosity, not fear. A good learning environment doesn't rely on control, it relies on connection. When teachers have resources and freedom to build real relationships with their students and their families, everything changes. Behavior improves, engagement grows, and students start to believe in their own potential. We can't expect students to thrive in spaces that feel like punishment. We have to make sure our schools are environments that care for the whole person, not just their grades or attendance. Because when students feel safe, valued, and trusted, they don't just learn better, they grow into confident, compassionate people who carry those lessons from far beyond the classroom. That's what real education should feel like. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Serena Johnson, who will be followed by Yaki Saip Albinil.
Hello, everyone. My name is Serena Johnson, and I'm a parent organizer with the Education Justice Alliance. And I'm speaking on behalf of a parent that's not able to make it tonight due to health problems. I'm going to read her speech. I am Gina, an active parent of 2 daughters whom are within Wake County Public School System. Public education is a promise. We're here to make it real. Public education is more than just a system. It's a promise to every child, every family, and every community. It's a commitment to opportunity, equity, and excellence. Yet that promise is being tested. In Wake County, research and data have revealed that barriers standing in the way of real progress, from inconsistent funding, priorities, and overcrowded classrooms to leadership decisions that silence educators and overlook students' needs. When politics overweigh purpose, when profit and personal interest replaces student focus, that's where the harm begins. My daughters were in overcrowded classes and very difficult for students to get an opportunity to receive one-on-one attention from their teacher that can be needed for growth. I would like for you all to allocate funding to support students, teachers, and parents and families to obtain public education with necessary resources, support, and training. Those are her statements, and these are my statements. Tonight is very interesting to see how the speeches have changed from the beginning of the night from now. And we have parents here who are advocating for their students to get the quality education that they've been receiving their whole school life. And then we have parents here who are advocating for that to happen in the same county. So if that's able to happen in the other side of town, why are we advocating for it to happen over here on the south side for the most part, what we're looking for now? So my question, or my comment to you guys, that we need to see that all over Wake County. We know it's possible because we have parents here who are advocating for their children still to remain in schools that provide resources, that provide adequate teachings and classes for their students. They don't want their children in areas where there's lack. And we don't want our children in areas that are lack. So we need for you guys to make sure that in this room that everyone is receiving the same resources, and we're able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Yaki Saip Al-Banil, who will be followed by Tamika Arnold.
Good evening. My name is Jackie, and
My apologies.
No worries, thank you. My name is Jackie, and I'm a community organizer with Education Justice Alliance here in Wake County. And I am here speaking as a community member, a public school supporter, and a coordinator for Public School Strong. I'm here to speak about the importance of aligning our budget decisions with a clear, proactive approach to student safety and well-being. The district's budget is a policy document. It reflects not only our financial priorities, but our moral ones. When we say that safety is a priority, our spending and our policies must demonstrate that commitment in specific and transparent ways. While I appreciate the district's recent statement on keeping children safe from ICE, the specifics on how we will how that will be accomplished have not been shared. So our families are concerned, and rightfully so. Vague assurances are not a substitute for clear procedures, consistent communication, and well-funded systems of prevention and response. So please don't wait until something tragic happens and we are unprepared because we failed to properly be equipped with policies, training, and community engagement that anticipate risk and protect our students. I ask you to join the school systems who have vowed to keep their children and families safe from ICE, even if that means defying federal guidance, because just because it is lawful doesn't make it morally right. Safety is not simply the absence of harm. It's the presence of trust, stability, and care. That means that using this budget to invest in evidence-based safety measures, like more counselors and social workers, comprehensive crisis response plans, trauma-informed training, and restorative approaches that build relationships rather than criminalize our students. Families and educators and students all deserve to know what safety looks like in practice, not just in principle. Transparency and accountability should be part of our prevention strategy. As you finalize your budget, I urge you to connect the numbers to a clear plan of action, one that makes our classrooms sanctuaries of learning and care, not places of fear and uncertainty. Wake County can and should be lead by example, showing what it means to protect students through preparation, communication, and compassion. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tamika Arnold, who will be followed by Yanira Valenzuela. Good evening, Ms. Arnold.
Good afternoon.
I'm coming. Good afternoon. Good evening. I'm Tamika Arnold, a member of EJA. I would like to share a few concerns about our school. First, the student suspension program. Need more focus on helping students learn and grow instead of just removing them from classes. We also need more school counselors to support children who may not get enough encouragement or guidance at home. And finally, I asked the board to review the numbers of teacher workdays to keep a fair balance between planning time and the students' learning time. Thank you for listening to my concerns.
Thank you. Our final speaker tonight is Yanira Valenzuela.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Janela Valenzuela, and I'm a proud parent of 2 children currently in the 3rd and 4th grade. I'm also a parent fellow with EJA, Education Justice Alliance, and I'm here to speak not just as a parent, but as someone who deeply values the future of public education. Right now, our teachers are not being paid what they deserve. They are underpaid and under-supported. And year after year, the lack of incentive and recognition makes it harder for them to stay in this profession. Education is a human right, not a business plan, and yet we are treating our educators as if they are disposable. My main concern is the shortage of support in special education. Regular education teachers are often reluctant to step into special education roles, not because they don't care, but because the responsibilities are overwhelming and the compensation does not reflect the workload. The stress, the paperwork, and emotional labor that special education teachers carry every single day is immense, and yet the pay does not match the demand. If we increased salaries and provided proper training, more teachers would feel motivated and prepared to support students with special needs. We also need to value our veterans teachers. These are experienced professionals who have dedicated years, sometimes decades, to our children's growth. They deserve pay increase just as much as new hires. Their experience is irreplaceable, and we must honor it, not overlook it. We say that public education is a promise. If that was true, we must keep that promise. That means investing in our teachers, respecting their work, and ensuring that they are paid fairly for the critical role they play in shaping our children's future. Let's make public education real for all of us.
All right, thank you. And that will conclude our public comment period this evening. Thank you very much. We will now move forward with the rest of our agenda. The next item are the items listed under our consent agenda. Board members have had a moment to review those items, and at this point, I would entertain any motion. Vice Chair Swanson?
Mr. Chair, I move for the adoption of the consent agenda.
Is there a second? We have a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda. We have a motion for Vice Chair Swanson, a second for Mr. Hershey. All in favor of approval of the items on the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
All right, I heard one. All right.
Roll call vote.
We'll do a roll call vote just to make sure. Ms. Gordon? Mr. Hershey? Dr. Ng? Ms. Edmonds?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Mr. Swanson? Vice Chair Swanson?
Aye.
And Ms. Caulfield?
Nay.
All right. And Ms. Allen has recorded that vote. All right. Next, we'll move to the items on our action items on our agenda tonight. And the first area of items is under policy. We'll have consideration of Board Policy 7720, Employee Political Campaign Activities, on second reading. I see Dr. Mutillo and Dr. Crane.
Good evening, members of the board. Superintendent Taylor. Tonight I am bringing policy 7720, employee political campaign activities, for second read. We did bring it for first read on action during the last board meeting. Board Member Hershey had some suggestions to remove sentences from policy 2220, official school spokesperson, that were included in the School Board Association's model policy. So you will see in your documents, the strike-throughs remove the language from 2220, and we have included a sentence along with a hyperlink to policy 2220 instead. So tonight, we are requesting the board's approval of the second reading of policy 7720, employee political campaign activities.
Chair Haggerty?
Yes, ma'am.
What I'd like to do is make the motion to approve, understanding that we can have discussion before the vote. Is that okay with you?
Yes, that's perfectly within order.
Okay. So I make a motion that we approve 7720 on second reading.
We have a motion from the policy chair, and there's a second from Mr. Hershey. Again, this is not a vote. This is just to put the motion on the table to be discussed and debated. Is there any discussion about the policy? Ms. Evans? Sorry, just as policy chair, I wanted to give you the first crack at it.
Thank you, sure. So I missed the last meeting, but I did review the video, so I saw the discussion, and I'm aware of the concerns that were raised, and I will yield to Mr. Hershey because I believe he might have another comment before we take our vote.
All right. Mr. Hershey?
Yes, thank you. So I said at the last meeting that I wasn't going to die on this hill, but as it turned out, I'm going to. One thing we've done a really good job of as a board is referencing policy, a different policy within a policy, and we've never quoted an entire policy within a different policy. So I'd like us to continue with the good work we've been doing by having a hyperlink rather than spelling out all of 2220, which can be really put into a bunch of different policies if we went down that road. And we were kind of repetitive within this, the way it was written. So I did work with Dr. Crane and Mr. Ramey on making some changes. And there was an additional change that I caught a little bit after too, which doesn't make a lot of sense. This is 7720 employee policy. And then in the first four words, we say employment or volunteer service. And so I would ask that we also strike or volunteer service. And I spoke again with Mr. Ramey about this and with Ms. Edmonds about this. And she had a place where if we were going to do volunteer political campaign activities, where it would go. That way this remains entirely about employment and employees.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hershey. And Ms. Evans, I see you have, let's go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I do want to hear from other board members if they, have thoughts or concerns. But I looked up our policies governing school volunteers, and we do have specific titled school volunteers as policy 5015, and I think that might be a good place for us to look if we want to go in that direction. And then we also have policy 5020, which is visitors to the schools, and that has a lot of language about volunteers contained in that policy. It's much longer. That's, again, 5020, visitors to the schools, but again, it includes a lot of governing language for volunteers as visitors to the schools. So I think those are two places that if we were concerned about that we could have that discussion. So I support the removal of the volunteer service phrasing because this was intended to be very narrow in scope and targeted toward employee political activity. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I knew that we were bringing the spokesperson language. I didn't know about the volunteer side. So I think we'll probably have some new discussion tonight from some board members sort of thinking about it for the first time. So I'll start with Dr. Ng, and then we'll hear from other board members as well.
Just to clarify, the strikeout, in my interpretation, and I may be wrong, but I thought maybe the intent of that language was to state that employees are representing the best interest of the board, school system, and the community. I didn't see it as much as the chair of the board and the superintendent are the spokespeople for the school system. I thought it was more the second sentence that was more important in my interpretation. If I'm incorrect, please correct me.
All right. So Dr. Ng, just to clarify, was that a question for staff or just an open-ended question for the board to discuss?
It's an open question. The idea was the second sentence where it says the policy further states that any person speaking in an official capacity shall conduct his or her assignment from the standpoint of the best interests of the board, the school system, and the community, and not as a representative of his or her own personal ideas or feelings.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hershey, do you have a response to that before I go to others?
Well, I think in general, that applies in all sorts of situations, which is why I don't like doing a full policy within a policy, and why we hyperlink it as well. And so that was kind of, I mean, the way I try to do this is I would have actually cut out a lot more because it made it really just very specific about employee political campaign activities, but I understood the arguments for keeping some of it, and I think doing the hyperlink works, but I also think that there's a general expectation of that from the superintendent about how people are to conduct themselves in any manner when it comes to being employees of the school system.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Swanson.
Thank you. So I was not aware of the other changes that was there. I'm only prepared at this moment to speak about the embedded language. And I think it is a reminder, not just to the public, but to the board as well, that the chair is the official spokesperson for the board. And I said that the last time, and I'm fine with the language here, and that's the hill that I will die on, because I think it needs to be a reminder that we can speak as individuals, but when it pertains to the business of the board, the chair is the official spokesperson. So it's not, getting confused with stuff out in the media or whatnot. But I also believe that folks may not understand policy or know the policy until it applies to them. So having these reminders set there is fine with me. But the other piece I want to speak to was the volunteer piece. Is it practical, Dr. Mantillo, to have volunteers, whether they are a PTA member, PTA president, and being employed or filling in a substituting role? Is that common practice? And the reason why I'm raising that is because if we were to strike the volunteer piece out of that, would that cause some confusion? Because a volunteer may not see themselves as a employee if they're, filling in a substitute role or something along those lines. So just trying to make sure that if we're striking those languages, that we're being mindful of all potential situations, not just the ones that is germane to this. But yeah, so that's just what I wanted to flag. And I'll encourage the dialogue from my colleagues on that.
Okay. Ms. Caulfield.
Thank you. I was going to add one more thing since Mr. Hershey had brought it up. I actually like having that piece be a little bit more transparent, and even if it's in multiple policies, because if somebody refers to a policy and they're talking about the political campaigning activities, any of that stuff, it may not necessarily be somebody that considers themselves just a volunteer, like you were saying, PTA, or somebody who's filling in a substitute, whatever. I think it just kind of defines the line that all the people that are representing the school system in the classrooms. So that's just a feedback with that. But I did want to, I wanted to ask about that particular piece that Mr. Swanson just brought up, that if the chair, obviously, when we're conducting business, is the spokesperson, but when we're out with the public, say a town hall, and like I'm doing a mayor's academy this week, like I'm still representing, providing information to the public, to our constituents, our board advisory committee. I'm out there with the people in my district, and I'm stating things. So I'm not taking over Chair Haggerty's role, and sometimes I refer to some of the things that you have said as our chair, but we're still sharing. So I'm worried that the wording could blur the line between us violating policy versus us being an elected official and stating that. I was just curious why we were put into the policy versus an employee, because we're not an employee, we're an elected official representing the school. I have one other thing, but I could wait. Looks like you have something to say.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Mr. Swanson might have a comment on that, or, okay, and then I'll have some comments too.
All right, and then my third, I guess, question was on the last paragraph where it talks about impartial study. I was wondering if we couldn't expand on that a little bit more to make it clear that if it is part of a lesson, that it is actually impartial information. I think it's really more about teaching the students where they can find information and how to search for things. But if we're only providing one side or one avenue, it's not really fair to the students that need to actually learn how to do it for themselves. So I'm just, and I'm just wondering if we could put more specific language in there. Those are just my three things that I thought about the policy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So if I can, I want to respond to different aspects of the policy and the changes. You know, the first thing is I want to get back to the original intent of the policy. And the intent of the policy was about employee political campaign activities. Originally, when we talked about the policy, it was broader. It just talked about political activities. And with something as broad as that, we know and we've discussed, there are so many issues, especially today, that we could bring up that someone could say, oh, that's political, right? But when the policy was originally designed, we were talking really about electoral activity, campaign advocacy, those sorts of things. And so, you know, I want us to kind of keep our focus on that. So to that end, as we get down into just your last question about some of the lessons, you know, I think we want to have classrooms that can have like a mock election, or, you know, who would you vote for? I mean, sometimes some teachers will do this with fictional candidates or historical candidates. Some teachers will ask, you know, how they would vote in today's election if they could. And, you know, I think that's generally an acceptable activity, especially if it's student-led, you know, and it's not the teachers advocating like for a particular candidate or another. If you have specific language for like how you would want to tighten that up, I'm welcome to that. I don't oppose that. But I think the intent is there that we still want instructional lessons about politics in our election system. To the other language that we have, I see there are two parts to it. There's the language about the spokesperson and the designee, and then there's the question about the volunteer service. So Mr. Hershey had come to me and we talked about this language about, you know, quoting a whole policy within another policy, and I understood his point. And so like this new language that was suggested, just as specified in a reference to the old policy, you know, I saw that as kind of addressing it and removing some of the redundancy. So if the board wants to, you know, go that route, I mean, I have no problem with that. I think to the points that Mr. Swanson raises, Vice Chair Swanson raises, are very valid. I saw them a little bit different, again, just within the context of this policy. Remember that we're talking about political campaign activity. And to that end, neither the chair of the board nor the superintendent should, in our official roles, be engaging in employee political campaign activity. All of us as individuals, you know, you all are free to go out and endorse candidates, contribute to candidates, volunteer to candidates. And I think that's appropriate. Where I think that would cross a line is whether as a board member or as the board chair, I'm telling you who to vote for, using this platform as, and, you know, the taxpayer dollars and resources as a means of campaign advocacy. So for me, I'm not as much worried about the spokesperson language being very explicit here, because I don't think any of us should be engaged in that political campaign advocacy. But, you know, the second half of that statement, to Dr. Ng's point, and then I think that supports Mr. Swanson's position too, the policy further states that any person speaking in an official capacity should conduct his or her assignment from the standpoint of the best interests of the board, the school system, et cetera. I mean, that's good language, and that is a good reminder. Whether you need to have that explicitly stated here, or whether that's what's referenced in the, as specified in policy 2220, official school spokesman, you know, I'm fine with that. Honestly, speaking as the chair, I see both sides. I don't have a strong opinion either way. I just think it's not necessarily as relevant here because none of us should be engaged in that political campaign activity in our official roles. Now, the question about volunteers is interesting because, you know, I mean, to me, the solution would be just to add employee and volunteer political activities in the title to make it consistent. I think it's important that we have a policy regarding that political activity by volunteers, because just like we don't want school employees engaged in electioneering on campus, when we welcome a school volunteer onto campus, then they're sort of acting within the endorsement of the schools, right? And, I'd hate to see anyone sort of try to take advantage of this and a staff person say, well, I'm doing this on my break, so I'm technically a volunteer, right? Or find some other way around that. I think there could be activities where a teacher might want to bring in a representative of two campaigns and have them debate, right? But I think that's different than necessarily being a volunteer. So I like that volunteers, wherever it is in policy, whether it's here or in the other two areas that our policy chair cited, 1515 or 5020, there does need to be guidance for volunteers that they're not engaged in this activity either. So I guess what I'm saying is I hear all your viewpoints. I think a lot of them are valid. But for me, the focus is just making sure that we are restricting that that campaign and electioneering activity and making sure that it applies equally to staff and to volunteers. All right. So we'll go back around. I'll start with Mr. Hershey since you introduced the language, then I'll go to Ms. Edmonds, and then I'll come back around.
So one question was the state school board policy, was that ever put up and sent? Because that would help. That helped me when I saw it. I don't think I have it, but
We might need to, it might still be in Assembly from the previous meeting. I'll
Okay.
take a look while
That
you.
was helpful when you sent it to me.
I can share that the volunteer service language is in the original NCSBA policy, but the quote of the policy 2020 was added. I do recall that.
Yeah. I completely agree about the volunteer piece. My initial suggestions when I was communicating with Dr. Crane and with Mr. Ramey were either to add it to the title or to strip it and make it its own policy with volunteer. 100% agree that we should do that. Either is fine. The reason I went with stripping it is because this is really about employees, and the language is about employees, and it references employees down. And I like the idea that Ms. Edmonds had of putting it where other volunteer information is, but I completely agree that we should do it. I do think, and I forgot to mention this, that the language that additionally as specified board policy 7300 staff responsibilities and code of ethics is that reminder to our employees about just that, and I think we should actually hyperlink that as well in the policy.
Thank you, Mr. Hershey. Ms. Edmonds?
Yeah, so a couple things. I like having removed the quote of policy 2220, and I think it's very clear the way it's reworded here. I was going to suggest the hyperlink for policy 7300 as well. And with regard to the volunteer service, I hope that I didn't in any way imply that we should have that discussion tonight.
Okay.
I was just letting the board know that there are two policies governing school volunteers, that if we wanted to address campaign activity by school volunteers, there was, in my view, other policies we should look to do that. It was not my intention to have that discussion tonight. However, I do support removing the or volunteer service in 7720. Does that?
That clarifies. I do appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Further comments? Any other discussion? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Edmonds?
I did have a question for Dr. Matillo. Subs, they're considered employees, yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that, all right.
Yep. And we'll come back. Vice Chair Swanson?
I was solely speaking on the PTA roles because, again, PTA roles are different. Some of them I have had experience where they are subbing in buildings and wearing the PTA hat. So making sure that it's clear in policy that whether it's in this policy or the policy that you've referenced, that the same rule should apply while they're within the bill. So that's the piece that I'm referencing and would love to see a future discussion on if it's not in this policy in an upcoming, whether we want to tighten the language in the policy, the two policies you referenced. I'm okay with that.
Okay, Ms. Caulfield?
Yes, thank you. I actually, Chair Haggerty, I like your idea of putting the employee actually in the title, only because it actually will direct somebody right there. Because I feel like if somebody's like volunteering, they're kind of acting as an employee in certain roles. So it would just be pretty clear if the board would consider that. And I did actually have a note of where I would add for the impartial part.
Okay, let's go to that.
If you would go down to the last paragraph after the sentence, right before it says however, and I know that you're much better at wordsmithing than we are, but I just had a note that we could add instructional content and methods that are impartially executed, just so that it made it clear. I think it's great to have the mock trials. I think it's a really good lesson for our students to actually execute that. I just thought it would be good to be clear to have both sides and see that actually play out in real life.
Okay, so I'm looking at that last paragraph after however. Can you give me that wording one more time?
It's actually before, however.
Oh, before, however.
Yeah, so instructional content and methods that are impartially executed.
Okay.
Just a note that the word impartial is in the first sentence in that paragraph already. Not saying that you couldn't add it again, but it already says this policy should not be construed as prohibiting the impartial study and discussion of political issues in the classroom setting.
Okay, what about just adding improperly executed after impartial study there?
You could do that. That's fine.
Okay. I mean, I don't know what the rest of the board thinks. Do you want to propose that as an amendment, or?
Chair Hurley, what's
Yeah.
your phrasing again?
So I was taking the wording that Mr. Ramey had pointed out, that we had impartial study already in the, actually at the beginning of that sentence. Because if you follow that sentence all the way to the end, that's where we were going to, where we would have added the new language. So since we have it at the beginning, it was just adding that extra clause that Ms. Caulfield had suggested. I think about either, before we said, I think you'd said either impartially executed or impartially properly executed.
And properly.
So here we could just add, the policy should not be construed as prohibiting the impartial study and discussion of political issues properly executed, or impartial study properly executed and discussion of political. I was just suggesting that you could put that up there at the beginning of the
Yeah.
sentence.
I
rather
had
than at
tried
the
to
end.
figure out how to reword it, but then it changed the meaning of the rest of the sentence. That's why I stuck it at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, I think at the end would work, actually, but I was just pointing out it would be a redundancy in impartiality. You could just say, it's a long sentence, but I'll just read the whole thing. This policy should not be construed as prohibiting the impartial study and discussion of political issues in the classroom setting when such study and discussion is consistent with the approved curriculum and guidance from supervisors on instructional content and methods and is properly executed.
What if you said, is properly executed and consistent?
Or, yep, absolutely.
And then just put
Yep,
it there?
Yep,
All right.
yep.
Does anyone have any objection to that? All right. Can we, I guess we'll do that as a formal motion then. Ms. Caulfield,
Yeah, do you want me to read that whole sentence all over again, or just?
just the specific words to add after and where to
Okay,
put
so
them.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the policy that it reads instructional content and methods that are, and is impartially executed. Is that how you worded it?
I'm not sure where we were placing it.
Oh, I missed the first part of that. I just had the properly executed part. Let's hear the language again.
As I understood it, your refinement of it, Chair Haggerty, would be when such study and discussion is properly executed and consistent with the approved curriculum and guidance from supervisors on instructional content and methods.
Yeah.
That would be the insertion point for the properly executed.
So after discussion?
Yes, when such study and discussion is properly executed and consistent with the approved curriculum and guidance, et cetera, et cetera.
So removing
That's just one
political
option.
issues in the classroom setting?
Oh, no, that's
No,
still
the
there
rest
too.
would stay,
Yeah. Because you want to make sure that the political issues are in the classroom setting are properly executed, to your point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'm missing the wording, because for me, it reads, "The impartial study and discussion is properly executed," and then we,
Sorry, keep reading. The
Okay.
impartial study and discussion of political issues in the classroom setting when such study
oh, and
is-
discussion is properly, okay.
Yeah.
And consistent with the approved curriculum.
It throws you off because they have the same phrase twice.
Okay. Just writing it down, hold on. So I'd like to make a motion to amend the policy to read, "This policy should not be construed as prohibiting the impartial study and discussion of political issues in the classroom setting when such study and discussion is impartially executed." Properly, and I did write that too, is properly executed, and the rest of the sentence would remain.
All right, is there a second? Second for Mr. Hershey. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the amendment is incorporated into the proposed policy. Now, there's been some discussion about the changes that Mr. Hershey has proposed that have been presented tonight by Dr. Mutillo. There's been some discussion about whether to keep them as is, whether to oppose them, whether to amend them. Currently, we just have the policy as amended. So are there any formal proposed changes, or do we want to go ahead and vote on the proposal as it is? Mr. Hershey?
Do I need an amendment to remove the "or volunteer service"? I would move that we amend the language by striking "or volunteer service."
Second.
All right. We have a motion to remove the phrase "or volunteer service" from the first sentence in the policy. Is that correct? All right, and there's no other appearances of that in the policy. All right. Any further discussion on that amendment? Vice Chair Swanson?
So if the language is going to be removed, where will the new language fall? Is it going to be a new policy? I need to know what the next steps so I can determine how I'm going to vote on this.
Ms. Evans, because you mentioned something to this effect?
Yeah, so I believe that we would look at putting that language in 50/20 visitors to the schools or 50/15 school volunteers. 50/15, the title of the policy is school volunteers, but 50/20 visitors to the schools has numerous references governing language related to volunteer activity. So I would yield to the staff and to our legal counsel to, advise us which place would be the better fit. But we could certainly bring this to policy committee so that we can address, the content concerns of 7720 related to volunteers.
Okay.
Does that help?
All right. Any other comment?
I just have a question. So the intention of removing the volunteer service, I just wanted to understand a little bit more. I know we could put it somewhere else, but just having the clarity when we're talking about campaign activities, political activity, yeah.
Anyone, Mr. Hershey?
That this policy is very specific just about employees, and then this part will be in a different policy, very specific about volunteers, and I think to the other point of any visitors to the school, as far as that goes, but just to keep them separate.
It is in the 7000 series, which is all personnel policies,
Okay.
as another point of reference.
I'll say, just speaking for myself, I'll probably vote against the amendment just because I think if it can be changed, but when you make a change like that, I'd rather do it at the same time concurrently, so you don't take it out of one place and then have like a delay before it gets to come up and then in another place. I'm happy to make the change, but what I'd rather do is hold off on that part until we have a proposal ready, and then we just change both at once. So there's no gap in the coverage, but that's just me. Ms. Gordon? And then Vice Chair Swanson?
Well, to that point, is there any reason why we can't just change the title of the policy to include volunteer?
I don't think there's a reason why we couldn't.
And then you could change it back if you update one of the other policies. I was going to suggest that actually that as an interim thing, it seems there's a consensus. You want the policy to apply, that language to apply both to volunteers and employees. So for now, it could be employee and volunteer political campaign activities in the title, leave the reference to volunteer service. Then once we'll go to policy committee, we come back with revisions to remove it from this policy and add the language to another policy. Just another option.
Vice Chair Swanson?
That works. I just didn't want there to be a gap, as the chair stated. And again, if we're trying to move this, I guess before political campaigns kick off,
Yep.
we don't want there to be a governing document for one group and not having language consistent with another group. So just for the consistency purposes, if that is the amendment that is there, I will not be supporting.
Okay. Well, it has been seconded, so at this point, we probably would need to take.
Actually, as long as it hasn't been called for a vote, it can be withdrawn.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hershey. The amendment's been withdrawn. Are there any further amendments, such as including volunteer in the title? As suggested by Ms. Gordon?
Okay. I motion that we change the title to reflect employee and volunteer.
There's a motion from Ms. Gordon to change the title to 7720, Employee and Volunteer Political Campaign Activities, second from Mr. Hershey. Any discussion, or can we move to a vote? Ms. Edmonds?
Is that something we can do?
Yes.
I mean, with all the language that's here,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the title. I'm talking about everything below the title. Can that be a directive to
Yeah.
volunteers?
Yes, I think so. It's not.
All that content?
It's the state statute that this policy largely implements would not apply to volunteers, just to be clear. That state statute, the problem is you can't spend public funds on political campaigns. Volunteers obviously are not paid with public funds. They're not paid. But you as a board can regulate the activities of your volunteers, and you can say, we don't want you to be, stumping for candidates while you're in our schools volunteering. So I have no trouble with the language as is. And of course, this would be an interim. This whole proposal it's an interim approach until you go through policy committee to move this language into another policy.
I understand that part, the interim piece.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that that's something we can
Yeah.
legally do
Yes.
for.
And it's in the original
However many
NCSBA
weeks.
policy. So yes, you wouldn't be the only school district with this language.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
All right. All right. Any further questions?
Move to call the question.
All right. Even seeing like a readiness to vote, we can eschew that motion if you'd like and just move straight to the vote. All right. All in favor of Ms. Gordon's amended language, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the amendment has been incorporated. Now, seeing the remainder of the language written as is, are we ready to vote on the now twice amended policy? Any further discussion? Ms. Gordon, question.
Okay, so I do have a question. Does that mean, as a parent, as a volunteer, I can't come into my child's school with wearing like anything politically affiliated?
I will refer that to Mr. Ramey.
Let's see. I don't think so. It would mean, let's see. It's a little confusing to apply to volunteers, I will say that, because the second sentence in the first paragraph says, however, the starting point is political activity is okay. You don't forfeit your rights to engage in political activity by being an employee or a volunteer. However, such campaign activities may not take place during work hours. Does a volunteer have work hours, is the first question. Involve expenditure of school system funds or resources. So to your hypothetical, if the volunteer came in and said, I'd like to use the school copier to run off some flyers for this political candidate, the answer would have to be no. That's expenditure of public funds or use of public resources. And then I think where the rubber hits the road is probably number 3,
Yeah.
encourage or coerce students, employees, or others to support a political issue or candidate, and that's exactly what you want to prohibit. I think.
Well, actually, Mr. Ramey, if I might, I'd ask you to read the rest of that sentence.
A political issue, party, or candidate while acting in, good point, while acting in official capacity as a school system employee. So that, again, does not apply to the volunteers. And then finally, violate any laws or policies. So that's going to apply anyway.
So given those conditions, it sounds like
It
the
sounds like it does
policy
not.
would not prohibit
Right.
Ms.
Sounds like it would
Gordon from
not.
showing up as a volunteer with her campaign.
Correct.
Okay.
And this is a good reason why in policy committee, we can address this more specifically to volunteers in a separate policy.
And I think Ms. Edmonds has raised that point, and I think we have that on our
Yeah.
agenda now. Mr. Hershey?
So for clarification, what in here applies to a volunteer?
Number 2 in that list would, so in expenditure of public funds or use of public resources, so a volunteer in the schools, again, can't use school funds or school resources, a copy machine, whatever resources to engage in political campaign activity. But wearing a button would not be prohibited.
And I believe number 4 would apply as well.
And number 4, of course, not violating any laws or policies.
Wow, yeah, okay. That's, by the way, the mess in the language is one of the reasons that I had initially wanted to just take it out, but I'm fine changing it later.
Yeah.
I'm more appreciative of that argument.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So are we ready for a vote then? All right. All in favor of the amended policy 7720, employee and volunteer political campaign activities on second reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion passes on second reading. Thank you, Dr. Mutillo.
I just have a moment to clarify a couple things.
Please.
So this is approved on second reading, so we are good to add this to the policy manual. We will, as quick as we can, bring back the other policies.
See where we might include the volunteer language in policy committee, and then once that comes about, we may come back and once again do an edit to
There may be
7720
some
based on
technical
that.
changes
Yeah.
required, but this way there won't be what we'd call the gap in coverage.
Got it. Thank you all very much for the discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Mutillo, and thank everyone for their patience as we worked through that. All right, the next item we have on action is school improvement plans. In accordance with North Carolina General Statute 115C-10537. And for that, the presentation will be by Dr. Clinton Robinson.
Chair Haggerty, Vice Chair Swanson, board members, and Superintendent Taylor. My intent this afternoon is to provide clarity on the distinction between school improvement plans and plans for improvement of low-performing schools. Also, to review the approval process for plans associated with low-performing schools, and offer a high-level overview of our overall school improvement planning process. At this time, I want to take a moment to clarify the distinction between two processes that are often discussed together but serve very different purposes. School improvement plans outlined in GS 115C-105.27 and plans for improvement of low-performing schools outlined in GS 115C-105.37. Understanding the difference between these two helps ensure transparency and consistency in how we support all schools versus those specifically identified as low-performing by the State Board of Education. First, the purpose of these plans differs. School improvement plans are designed to improve student performances and guide overall school improvement across every school in the district. Plans for improvement, on the other hand, are targeted and corrective. They address specific performance deficiencies in schools that have been formally designated as low-performing by the State Board. In other words, school improvement plans drive continuous improvement for all schools, while plans for improvement focus on urgent intervention where performance has fallen below expectations. The applicability also differs. Every public school in North Carolina must have a school improvement plan developed on a 2-year cycle and reviewed annually. Plans for improvement are required only for those schools that have received D or an F performance grade from the state and are formally identified as low performing. This ensures that while every school engages in improvement work, our lowest performing schools receive an additional layer of oversight, monitoring, and support. The leadership structure for these plans is also distinct. School improvement plans are school-based and collaborative. They're developed by a school improvement team, including the principal, teachers, instructional support staff, and parents, ensuring multiple voices shapes the plan. Plans for improvement are district-led. They're developed by the superintendent and district leadership team for each low-performing school, ensuring that central office expertise and resources are aligned to address the specific issues identified by the state board. This dual approach allows for both grassroots ownership of the school at the school level and strategic accountability at the district level. So in summary, both processes are essential, but they serve different purposes. School improvement plans drive system-wide progress, and plans for improvement drive targeted recovery and acceleration. Together, they reflect our district's commitment to ensuring that every school is improving and every student is growing, consistent with our strategic plan, Pathways to Excellence and Equity. So at this time, I'd like to talk about the process for plans for improvement of low-performing schools. At its last meeting, the State Board of Education formally approved the list of North Carolina schools that have been designated as low-performing. The schools in our district that have this designation this year are listed in your board materials. GS 115C-105.37 requires public school districts to take certain steps when schools are designated as low-performing. While some items may be addressed in closed session, this presentation addresses only the open session and other public actions that are required. To implement the statutory requirements, here are the next steps that our districts will engage in. The first step is for the superintendent and staff to develop an individualized plan for improvement for each low-performing school. This is not the same as a school improvement plan developed by the school improvement teams, though there certainly can be overlap and similarities in the plan. One thing that I would like to note is that currently and historically, those plans have been captured within NC STAR alongside the rest of the school improvement plans. The next step is to provide parents with written notice of each school's low-performing status, the school performance and growth scores, information about the proposed plan for improvement developed by the superintendent, the meeting date for when that plan will be presented to the board, and a description of any additional steps the school is taking to improve performance. In the next step, the superintendent will submit the proposed plans for improvement for low-performing schools to the Board of Education by October 31st, 2025. To ensure adequate time for review, the plans will be shared with the board well in advance of meeting at which they will be formally presented. Following submission, the board must take action within 30 days with the authority to approve, reject, or modify each plan as outlined in statute. Following board approval, the plans for improvement will be submitted to the State Board of Education within 5 days of the board meeting. The state board may provide recommendations for modification, which the local board must formally consider and, if any changes are made, approve through a vote. Once finalized, all approved plans will be publicly posted on the district's website to ensure transparency and accessibility. Again, the purpose of this agenda item is to give you heads up on the process and the opportunity to ask questions. The relevant statute is included in the board materials, as well as a template letter that staff will use to notify parents of low-performing school status. The only action I am seeking at this time is the approval to move forward with parental notifications of plans of improvement. At this time, I'm happy to answer any questions about the process, and our attorney, Neil Ramey, will be more than willing to answer any questions about the statutory requirements.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. And just as a reminder to board members, you should have a blue folder that was provided that should have the same documentation which you just saw up on the screen. So if you have questions, please refer to those hard copy documents. We can, of course, put things back up on the screen, but it might just be easy for everyone to look at the hard copy. Vice Chair Swanson, did you?
Yes. I move that we, Dr. Robinson, remind me of what your request was?
Absolutely, sir. My motion is to request the approval and support of the parent notifications to be submitted and shared as such.
So, Mr. Chair, my motion is to honor that request so we can notify the families of the, sorry, my words aren't quite working. It took everything out of me with that last policy, so I've got to be sharp for this discussion. So that is the motion.
All right. So we have a motion from Vice Chair Swanson to approve the parent notification required as part of the process. We have a second from Mr. Hershey. Are there any questions about what we are doing, and then any further discussion? It looks like we do. I'll turn it first to Vice Chair Swanson, and then I'll go to Ms. Caulfield.
Great. So I just want to first commend and thank you, Dr. Robinson and Dr. Mutillo and Dr. Alfred Keith for the work that went into this request. I thought it was very important for the public to see that we just don't rubber stamp items when it comes to teaching and learning in the buildings. Our school improvement plans, the low performing plans, are the meat and potatoes of the work that happens in these schools. You can go to your student's website, your child's website, to see what are those indicators that are in those school improvement plans and or the low performing plans. Because again, just because there is a grade level that is indicated by the state does not indicate that teaching and learning does not take place. And so I don't see the young man that had made the comment about our low-performing schools, but the work still takes place. What we have to do as a board is to determine what resources needs to be allocated to ensure that all kids can learn, that all kids have the ability to master content. And so I think that this is really a way for us to be transparent to the public, to talk about what goes into these plans and whatnot. So that's my statement. My question is, as we talk about you laid out the difference between the school improvement plans and the low-performing school plans. Do these plans often intersect? Can you see certain indicators replicated in both of these plans?
Absolutely. There is an intersection. I have a resident specialist here with me today that will be able to talk about that and discuss that as we dive into the school improvement plan overview. But yes, there can be some overlapping and intersections with regards to the indicator as noted in NC STAR as far as the expectations are concerned.
Great. I'll reserve the rest of my question. I don't want to monopolize the time, but I do have some others. But again, thank you for this. And hopefully
Absolutely.
allows board members to see what's taking place in schools that you represent and finding ways to support the work that's taking place. So I'll stop there, Chair.
All right, thank you. I have some questions and comments too, but we'll go to Ms. Caulfield first.
Thank you. I just wanted to just to clarify what we're voting on at this point, if I just make sure I understand it correctly.
Absolutely.
So we have two different plans. One is our school improvement plans, like how our schools are going to grow and improve in general. And then we have the low performance.
Plans for improvement.
Thank you. So that's not what we're approving right now.
No,
We're just approving
no.
the growth, the
No,
improvement
no,
plans in
no.
general right now.
We're not doing the improvement plans at all. And when we're going to bring the improvement plans back to the board, you will have ample time to review all of the school improvement plans within your particular district. What we're approving this evening and what I'm asking for support is that we can move forward with the parental notification as dictated by state statute. And that's what I'm asking for. That's the only thing. The intent and purpose for sharing the additional information was the division between the two is to be clear about which is what. So when we think about school improvement plans, all schools do school improvement plans as mandated. When we think about the plans for school improvement of low-performing schools, that is something that is distinctly different, that is done at the district level based upon the guides and the guidance of the superintendent. And so we're not approving any of those things at all. I just wanted to make you aware of the process, so once you get the information, you will make the delineation and the distinction between the two.
Okay, so are we just notifying parents
Correct.
that it is, this is where they stand?
Correct. We're notifying parents of the low-performing school status and the plans for school improvement of those particular schools.
Okay, just wanted to be clear. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you. So we are all clear, right? We will receive the low-performing school plans before October 31st. Board members, you'll have an obligation to review these, and then within 30 days of receipt, it'll come back before the board where we'll have a vote on those plans.
And Chair Haggerty, just so that you're aware, after this presentation, I will be sending the plans to each of you by first thing 0900 tomorrow morning.
All right. We're going to set our watch by that.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
what I
Mr.
would ask Dr.
Superintendent.
Robertson to do is discuss how this has been addressed by the board in the past, because I think this is the first time that we've had this discussion, and so we do know that this process has been done through school improvement as an addition. But I do want to be clear that this is, what we'll be doing this time, we'll be presenting plans that has been different from what has been done in the past.
Correct. So when you think about what was done in the past and through my research and pulling the documents, it's always been on consent. And so when it goes on consent, of course, it is already approved by the board. We have not really engaged in the conversation from this latitude to understand the differences between the two. Now, in speaking with several area superintendents, senior administrators, talking about the initial process, what I was able to ascertain that we do have plans for low-performing school, which is captured in NC STAR, and those are the additional indicators that they pulled down. But when we talk about it from a different platitude and really engaging with Superintendent Taylor, what are we doing as a district to really allocate resources from that perspective to have something specific to help improve low-performing schools? One of the examples that we talked about and discussed was that if I have teachers at a particular low-performing school, they're able to transfer at a particular time. Well, as a district, what support structures do we have in place to make sure that those teachers in that particular school don't continue to go to other schools when we're trying to build the capacity about everybody in that school to ensure that every student has a highly qualified teacher? And so that's just part of the conversations, but it comes a little bit more in depth. But as we move forward for this particular year, we will continue to use the process that's already in place. However, we plan on making significant changes based upon the guidance and the directive from Dr. Taylor of how we want to move forward.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. So, as we are focused right now just on the parental notification, I do want to address an issue that comes up with our performance grades that are issued and how we categorize schools this way. Because I think the motivation for assigning school grades is to try to come up with an evaluation system that is relatable to parents, that parents might understand. But, and if board members, you can see this in the sample letters, we do explain the formula is 80% achievement, 20% growth. And that's set by state law. But what I wonder is in the parental notification, if it's appropriate to share what the individual school proficiency and growth numbers might be. And the reason I bring that up is that in some cases, you can have a school with a principal who has come into a very low-performing school and has had tremendous growth year after year, but still hasn't moved it quite to that 80% proficiency rating, right? Or to where the 80% proficiency scoring would then move it into that passing grade or out of the D or F. Just like on the other hand, you could have a school that has high performance, but actually has been slipping on growth. And as we look to evaluate our administrators, it's important to see the total picture. And I'm just wondering if there's any more explanation or any more data you could provide parents so that they understand these performance grades and they can either see not just where there has been growth and it should be recognized, but then especially if there hasn't been growth as well, or backsliding. I mean, I think that's equally important too. Just anything else that you might consider adding to provide more context to parents.
Absolutely. And I can meet with the area superintendents and the senior administrators, and we can meet as a collective group to see exactly what we can include that might be more beneficial as well.
I appreciate that.
And so, Mr. Chair, I'll add to that what you see in the letter is a statutory requirement of the minimum that's required. And so the chair is absolutely correct that you can add any additional information about school performance, talking more about growth, talk about bouncing houses, whatever you want to do, but it is the opportunity to add additional information beyond what is in the required letter, so you can do that, absolutely.
All right, thank you. Dr. Ng and then Ms. Edmonds.
I had the very same thought about the emphasis on the growth, and if there was any kind of granularity of information that we can give, not just numbers, but also, opportunity to brag about what's going on in the school. I think that's very important. You have a little blank there to do just that, it seems like. So I think that's a great opportunity to brag about some of the, the new projects or things that the principals are working on, and I think that's helps for the parents to understand that they can still be proud of their child going to that school.
Thank you, Dr. Ring. Ms. Evans, then Ms. Gordon.
Talk about hills to die on. That's my just disdain for these school letter grades and this atrocious formula that is dictated by the state. Unless something has changed in the last 2 to 3 years, I believe North Carolina is the only state that has that 20-80% split. But having said that, I believe that we already produce our own school progress reports that we put together and release when the the state issued letter grades come out. We take a deeper dive and present for the public school profiles, school progress reports, whatever we call them. That already happens. So can we link to those as well? Don't they share a lot more nuance?
Yeah, they share a lot more nuances with respect to some of the great things that are going on in buildings. One of the things I can also do is I can touch base with Dr. McMillan to make sure that those school progress reports can be attached to the parental notification that will give them additional data metrics that they can look at and be very proud of. We can do that, absolutely.
Thank you, Ms. Evans.
I think that's a great point.
Ms. Gordon.
Yeah, I just wanted to Vice Chair Swanson's point. I think this is a great way for not only to be transparent, but also to hold us as a board accountable, because as he stated, this is an accountability piece for us to show how we are allocating resources to these schools to make sure that they are succeeding. And, you know, when Mr. Hershey and I and Dr. Taylor were able to sit with the mayors and the city managers, that was one of the things that came up around schools, you know, certain areas where, you know, the stigma attached to low-performing schools in their area and people not wanting to move to that area, which we saw tonight. And so I think this starts to shift the narrative. But my question is, as it pertains to informing parents, is it just a letter? Can it be something in person? Can it be something interactive so parents are able to actually like join the conversation and have questions?
I'm pretty sure it can be.
Okay.
I will defer to Dr. Taylor to make sure I don't say anything.
Yeah, you could have any kind of community meeting. I know Title I schools will have parental meetings at the beginning that they talk about, but in terms of the notification, this is the statutory requirement that you have to do.
Okay.
But we would certainly encourage the school to take those opportunities to not only send this notification, but to engage in real conversations with their parents and community about what makes their school great. I think, obviously, we've heard the conversation about the 80-20, we being the only state that still does this. And so it is, I think, a great opportunity to be able to explain to a parent what that means and what growth versus achievement really mean.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can tell you, I've been in a state before where you could have achievement proficiency at 20% and you're at A school because growth has that much weight. But, you know, I'll leave it at that.
Right, and I'll just add to that. This reminds me of State Superintendent Mo Green's his work around, you know, excellence in education, and how he specifically stated that while we have these A schools, B schools, that's great, but we're going to pull back a little bit from celebrating them so much and more so celebrate the growth that's happening with our other schools.
All right. Dr. Robinson, having been provided this board input and noting that you have, I believe, statutory authority to go up until October 31st, we will give you beyond 0900 tomorrow to incorporate any changes and then make these letters available to the parents.
Absolutely, I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you. All right. Are there any other questions, or are we ready for ready to proceed with the motion? All right. Do you remember who seconded?
Mr. Hershey.
Okay. The motion had been made by Vice Chair Swanson, seconded by Mr. Hershey. All in favor of the motion to authorize the parental notification, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, Dr. Robinson. And again, I do want to just give a special recognition to Vice Chair Swanson for really elevating this issue. You know, we talk all the time about transparency and accountability, and as you heard, this is something where in past years, this might have simply just breezed through on a consent agenda item, and this will give you all an opportunity to review these plans, dive into the work, and really understand the issue so that when parents come to you and have questions about this, you can speak from a very informed point of view as to what the school's system's plans are for each of these schools. So I really want to thank you and commend you for bringing this to our attention. All right.
So, Chair Hagerty, I was given a directive by Vice Chair Swanson to also be prepared to provide a presentation about the school improvement cycle and what it looks like. We're prepared to show that to you now, but if you would rather defer it to a different date, probably a board work session, we're prepared to do that as well. But I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew we were prepared, but if we want to push it later, we can do that.
I'll defer to Vice Chair Swanson. Are we focused on this issue enough to proceed, or do you
I
want to
think we
move it
should
on?
just proceed with this, since they've done the work, and Dr. Robinson and I have stayed on the phone many hours about this, so I don't want that good work not to be seen by the public, so.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. If you guys can go ahead and put the presentation up on the board, it'd be greatly appreciated so we can use that slide deck. Thank you. So this is the presentation that's going to be a high-level overview of the school improvement planning process, and this is just built just directly for today. And so the one thing that I will share with you, the school improvement plan process in WCPSS is a continuous system-wide cycle of reflection, planning, implementation, and learning, designed to improve achievement and outcomes for every student. It intentionally aligns with the 2023-2028 Strategic Plan Pathways to Excellence and Equity and the Board's equity policy, ensuring that improvement efforts are both strategic and equity-driven. The process embeds the WCPSS learning model and equity framework across every stage of improvement to ensure coherence and alignment from the classroom to the district level. As you review the overview of the WCPSS SIP process document, please do not hesitate to reach out to me if you have any clarifying questions with the information that you have received. As Board Member Gordon stated about celebrating different things, I want to take the opportunity to uplift and recognize our area superintendents and senior administrators for their unwavering leadership in guiding the school improvement planning process across the district. I know that each of you are watching, and so I hope you hear my words of affirmation because I appreciate the work that you do. These people are at the forefront of this work, coaching principals, supporting process managers, and helping schools transform data into meaningful strategies that drive student learning. Their partnership ensures that the planning process remains focused, equity-centered, and aligned to our district's strategic priorities. Because of their dedication, schools are building stronger systems for collaboration, reflection, and continuous growth. And while we acknowledge that there is still more work to be done, it is clear that we are trending in the right direction. So, as you may be aware, Dr. Alpha Keefe has served as a senior administrator for some time within our district, working directly with schools to guide and support their school improvement planning efforts. Given her depth of expertise and her hands-on experience in this area, I have personally asked her to provide a high-level overview of the school improvement planning process, offering insight into how schools engage in continuous reflection, data-driven decision-making, and alignment with our district's strategic priorities. There you go.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson, and Chair Hagerty, Vice Chair Swanson, Dr. Taylor, and board members. I'm glad to be here with you tonight to share an overview of the broader school improvement planning process. So in reference to Ms. Caulfield's question earlier, we are now transitioning from what is specific to low-performing school improvement plans to overall school improvement plans. Our school improvement plans in WCPSS follow a 2-year cycle, usually approved in even-numbered years. And so They were approved last school year, but schools do make annual updates that I will share with you today. These processes are focused on continuous improvement and have strong alignment to our strategic plan. We are highlighting here core beliefs 2 and 4, which really do show the purpose of school improvement overall, which is designed to eliminate that predictability of achievement and to be the vehicle through which schools are able to continuously pursue what is best for their students. There is also tight alignment to our strategic plan framework, to our priorities, and to our pillars. The statement that you see here as the purpose of school improvement was originally created in 2018 as we were transitioning school improvement plans to align with MTSS and into the NC STAR framework with the guidance of NCDPI. And I am really proud to say that even as those were created prior to the strategic plan framework, you can see such a tight connection there, which really shows that we were all working from that stakeholder input and seeing the same things, you all, as you were developing that strategic plan framework, and the area superintendents, senior administrators, and their teams as well in creating the purpose of school improvement. Here you see a capture of the school improvement plan workbook that the area senior administrators have created to guide our school improvement process managers and principals through that process. You will hear two terms used interchangeably, process managers and school improvement team chairs. Those are the same people. NC STAR designates them as process managers, and our historical language was school improvement team chair. So you will hear us say those same things. It is the same teacher leadership role in a school. Every school engages each year in an annual data review that allows them to have a comprehensive needs assessment. They look at their outcome data, but they also look at all of their process data and their perception data as well. They look at all of the metrics that are part of our strategic plan, as well as the higher level goals, but those individual metrics alongside them, and are able to analyze root causes and determine their focus of improvement for the year. There are sometimes adjustments made mid-cycle to a plan, and so you will see those reflected in school improvement plans as well, as the data might have changed and they might have made adjustments to goals or action steps following that data review. And of course, they can update their goals in any year, but they definitely update them at least 2 years, as I was saying before, in alignment with the cycle. Here you see how the areas have guided schools to align their goals to the strategic plan framework, as well as to the levers that are part of our learning model and to the equity roadmap also. So all of this is tied in that every school will have their first goal about student knowledge and skills, priority 1. Then schools can have a second goal that is about any of our priorities, whatever their data would indicate is the biggest need there, and schools can have a third goal as well. That third goal is optional and can also align with any priority. Dr. Robinson already shouted out the team. They are the creators of all of these resources and brilliant, and I believe you will have the opportunity to dig in with them in an upcoming session as well. Just like the requirements for low-performing schools do come from legislation and policy, so do many of the requirements that you will find in a school improvement plan as well. Some of the topics that are addressed by legislation are listed here. The first is distributive team membership. It is a legal requirement that parents are part of the school improvement team, and also that all staff are part of the school improvement team. That is representation of grade levels or departments, in addition to ensuring that non-certified staff are represented as well. School improvement team meetings are subject to open meetings law and have to publish minutes as public records as they are open meetings. Also, professional learning must be addressed in the school improvement plan and aligned to the school improvement plan. And the school improvement plan must be voted on in a confidential ballot by the majority of the staff at least 2 years. That's actually where we get the source of the 2-year cycle from. NC STAR, which is our current platform for school improvement, is centered around indicators of best practice. These are research-based best practices, and these are the things that schools assess their progress towards. In 2018, as we were transitioning into this platform and aligning with MTSS, we did choose through a collaborative input process a District 5 indicators that you will still see in most of our school improvement plans. Typically, a school would be focusing on 3 of those 5 in any given year. And just as a point of language of what happens within the platform, when a school does assess an indicator, it then becomes an objective instead of an indicator. So that's another place where you'll hear people say different things, indicator and objective. They are actually the same thing, but it just depends on where you are within the NC STAR platform, which one you will see. When you read a plan, it will be listed as an objective. When a school reaches full implementation of an objective, then they are able to choose from a bank that the area senior administrators coach them on that are also aligned to other aspects of the strategic plan priorities and pillars. And you will also see those additional indicators from NC STAR represented in that alignment of low-performing plans, as Dr. Robinson was discussing earlier. The graphic you see here on the left-hand side shows how the school improvement alignment is modeled for school leaders and staff. This has been socialized over the last 2 years by the area superintendents and their teams. And so you can see that the strategic plan grounds all of that work, which is then seen in a school improvement plan, then into the principal's goal setting and their PLC problems of practice, and to the staff PLCs and goal settings as well, so we can culminate with student success. On the right-hand side, you will see those District 5 indicators organized by where they align with strategic plan priorities. So you can see standards aligned instruction, tiered instruction, positive behavior management, social emotional learning, and family engagement. And when you access a SIP in NC STAR, as Mr. Swanson said, you will go to a school website. We worked very closely with the comms team a few years back to make sure that these are all standardized on all school websites. From the school website, you will click Our School and then School Improvement. When you get there, it will show you login information to access the plan within NC STAR. Finally, these are just some resources for anyone who would be interested in digging deeper into either the process or the planning tools that are available for school improvement plans. Thanks for the opportunity to share today. Dr. Robinson and I will be happy to answer any questions that you may have about school improvement planning broadly.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Keith Alford. Board members, do you have any questions for staff at this time? I will say this, we do have 200-plus schools.
Yes.
That's a lot of plans. So talk to us a little bit about the review process for these plans. How do we know if a school is following a plan? How do we know if a plan is appropriate?
It's great to have a team. So today's my birthday, so he says, hey, if you need me for anything, just call me, I got your back.
Happy birthday.
Hello, Mr. McCabe.
Hey, Mr. Haggerty, how are you? Good, and the question just was about monitoring kind of the progress of the plan?
Yeah, when a school adopts one of these plans, for example, there are so many of them, how do we as the board or the public know that the plan is proper, that it has the right components, that the school is following it?
Yeah, well, I'm going to flip it a little bit and go from the bottom up, right? Because when the school is, once the school has developed a plan, there's a quarterly review process that's in place at all the schools. And so they're meeting to track their own plan. Often area superintendents or senior administrators are there at quarterly reviews at the school building. It's done as a leadership team. Sometimes it's done even as a full school. And they monitor their action steps according to collecting the data on the progress towards those action steps. And then plans are always available to be adjusted. They're designed to be fluid, right? We work with kids and conditions on the ground change, and so our improvement plans need to be flexible based on those as well. So we encourage schools, when they review the data, to look carefully at that to see, is there any modifications, changes, additions? Did you complete something and you need to take it out? So the plan is not just some long list of things, it's key strategic moves that they're making. And so the quarterly review process is really the key part that does how schools monitor that. And then district-wide, we support that quarterly review process. Does that answer your question?
I think it does. I appreciate that. And
Yeah.
I just want to just add, like, one thing is I understood the presentation when it's talking about the goals and how the goals are set. If at least one of the goals, you can have multiple goals, but one of the goals has to be related to priority one in the strategic plan.
Right.
And so do you interpret that to mean that every school improvement plan should have at least one goal related to student performance or academic performance?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Student knowledge and skills, priority one, academic performance for sure.
Okay. And then Vice Chair Swanson has alerted me as well, and I want to make sure I read it accurately, that we will take a deeper dive into this during the December retreat with the area superintendents. So board members, if you have any lingering questions, we can prepare those, we can submit them in advance, and that way everyone will be prepared and they won't just be ambushed by my own questions. All right.
Great.
Thank you,
Look
Mr.
forward to that.
McKay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right.
And Mr. Chair, I want to add one
Yes,
comment
sir.
to that, when Mr. McCabe talked about the quarterly reviews. This is something that we also want to make available to board members, so there will be an opportunity, if you so desire, to be able to attend a quarterly review and be a part of that review. As the chair has talked about, being a large district of 200 schools, it is, I don't want to say impossible, but really difficult to have 200-plus plans brought to the board for approval. So that's a process that you see in medium and small-sized districts where that opportunity is there. But this is the one thing that we talked about that would provide that for the board if they desire to see plans in the schools that they represent and be able to ask questions.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor.
And Superintendent Taylor and Chair Hagerty, one thing that I do want to add that Mr. McCabe didn't add, he really didn't dive into the evaluative process that they take ownership of as area superintendents. As Vice Chair Swanson shared, we are ready for the deep dive in which they will be able to explain it and be alongside each of you one by one to give you the information and answer any clarifying questions that you have.
Vice Chair Swanson.
I had a conversation with our former colleague, now Representative Johnson Hostler, who was grateful that someone's taking up the school improvement fight, because when she was on the board, she led this and continued. So I told her I would keep up this fight because that's really where the work is. And there's one thing I did want to clarify. I know there was a comment from the public commenters regarding lack of student voices. I do know at the high school level, there are student voices and student representation, which is there. Also as parent engagement as well, that's a part of that. So perhaps there could be a way that we can include some student voices at the lower, at elementary and potential, maybe elementary and middle school level in the near future to ensure that those voices are being heard. But I do want to make sure that that was lifted up, and maybe it's an opportunity for students to take a dive into this as well, to see the work that's taking place at their school and how it incorporates what they're learning on a day-to-day basis. So again, thank you all for doing this deep dive with us.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And to that point, just for the board members, I do want to give credit where credit is due. A district as large as Wake has a lot of policies, procedures, practices, and customs that get ingrained over time. And sometimes change can be hard. But, as we talk about accountability and transparency, it really requires a more thorough look into things like our school improvement plans. And sometimes, you don't always like what you find, but it's important to take that look. And so I want to commend Dr. Taylor, because when we've come to him and talked to him about these concerns, he's been very open to it. He's investigated individual school improvement plans, and he's talked about the process. And, I feel really confident that he's going to take all of these very seriously as we go through this evaluative process. And again, we might uncover some things we may or may not like, but the fact is that we are looking and we are conducting that search, and that takes a lot. So I just want wanted to lift that up and commend you for that commitment. All right. So we have one last agenda item before we move into board and superintendent comment, and that is the NCSBA annual meeting voting delegates. If you remember, we discussed this at our last meeting. Under the North Carolina School Board Association bylaws, each participating board member, or each participating board, must elect their delegates, name their voting delegates to the association's general convention as an official board action, all before October 31st. And as this is our last board meeting before October 31st, today is our day to name those delegates. I'd ask board members who may or may not be attending the convention and who may or may not be interested in serving as a delegate. And so, based on that polling, what I have found is that we have 4 board members who will be attending the convention. And so what I would like to do is put into nomination the names of those 4 board members as our voting delegates: Ms. Caulfield, Ms. Rice, Ms. Edmonds, and myself, Mr. Haggerty. And as I did not have any other board members indicating they were attending, I would not put any names up as alternates because we don't have anyone going, so what's the point of being an alternate? So with that, I put that slate out to you, and I would entertain any motion at this time.
Chair, I move for the adoption of the slate of names that you presented.
We have a motion from Vice Chair Swanson for adoption of the slate of voting delegates.
Second.
We have a second from Ms. Edmonds. Is there any debate or any other comment? Thank you for that. No. So with that, we'll move, seeing a readiness to vote. All in favor of adoption of the slate, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, by the unanimous vote, the slate has been adopted and will be conveyed to the North Carolina School Boards Association. Thank you very much. All right, so that concludes our action items on our agenda tonight. So the next item on our agenda will be our comments from our superintendent, Dr. Robert Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I will say to the board delegates that I do look forward to attending the school board conference with you guys. So you all will miss out on a lot of policy work for those that are not in attendance. This school year, our district celebrated the opening of 4 new schools, bringing the Wake County Public School System to a total of 203 schools, serving more than 161,000 students. I and many of my colleagues have had the pleasure of attending some or all of the ribbon-cutting events we have hosted at each school. Each new school, Rex Road Elementary in Holly Springs, Pleasant Plains Elementary in Apex, Bowling Road Elementary in Fuquay Varina, and Felton Grove High School in Apex were thoughtfully designed to meet the needs of today's learners through flexible, modern, and welcoming spaces. These buildings represent more than just growth. They represent opportunity, new places for students to learn close to home, and communities built around shared values of education and excellence. Opening a new school in the community is a community effort requiring collaboration among families, educators, contractors, and countless support staff. Most importantly, it reflects the steadfast commitment of our Wake County Board of Commissioners and the citizens of Wake County, whose investment in public education makes these projects possible. The Commissioners' consistent partnership and responsible long-term planning allow us to keep pace with population growth while ensuring that every community has access to high-quality, safe, and modern learning environments. The support of the Wake County voters who have approved school bond referendums by wide margins continues to provide the critical funding needed for both new school construction and renovation of aging facilities. These new campuses stand as proof of our community's belief in the strategic plan core belief that public education is a shared responsibility and that community support is essential to student success. We are deeply grateful to our commissioners and our county staff and the citizens of Wake County for their continued confidence in our mission and their commitment to our students' future. Now, last week, teachers at Brooks Magnet Elementary and Green Magnet Elementary received wonderful surprise that further reflects our community's generosity and belief in public education. The fashion retailer Altered State. How many of you all are familiar with that? Oh, there's a lot of shopping there. Okay. which is opening soon in North Hills, donated $20,000 through adoptaclassroom.org to support teachers at both schools. The donation was announced during a school-wide assembly at Brooks, which was also live-streamed to Green Magnet, creating a shared moment of excitement for students and staff alike. Each teacher at the two new schools will receive several hundreds of dollars to purchase classroom materials and supplies through adoptaclassroom.org. This donation means teachers can buy what they need for students without having to reach into their own pockets. They plan to use these funds to purchase manipulatives, classroom subscriptions, and other creative resources that bring learning to life. This partnership shows what happens when local businesses, schools, and nonprofits work together to support educators and students in meaningful ways. So we're deeply grateful to Altered State and adoptaclassroom.org for their generosity and for choosing to make such a positive impact in public schools. And so while we'll be visiting Altered States, I have never been there before, so I'll be checking it out. Finally, this week marks Educational and Audiology Awareness Week, a great opportunity to recognize the dedicated professionals who help ensure every student has access to learning, no matter their hearing ability. In Wake County, we're fortunate to have 14 licensed audiologists and 2 support staff who serve students across our schools. Last school year alone, this team served about 650 students and completed thousands of hearing assessments for school-age and preschool children. Audiologists identify hearing challenges, fit assistive devices, and work closely with families and teachers to make sure students stay connected and confident in the classroom. Their impact can be life-changing, as you'll see in this story from ABC 11, which features 2 sisters at Oakview Elementary who were the first children in the country to receive a new type of hearing implant called Bone Bridge. With the support of audiologist Dr. Meg Guntner, I probably sliced that name up, and their understanding and accommodating teachers, these students are thriving both academically and socially. So check out the video that we prepared.
I like recess and lunch.
Second grader Lily Ferguson and her third grade sister Kenzie enjoy school as much as any other kids their age, and their normal school experience is all thanks to doctors, advanced technology, and attentive parents.
When Kenzie was about 18 months old, I just felt like she wasn't really hitting her communication milestones.
Their mom, Jill, happens to be a speech pathologist. With concerns about her daughter's hearing, she took them to a doctor, ultimately identifying a unique type of hearing loss.
Both girls, their ear canals narrow to the point that they are closed. And in that situation, a traditional hearing aid isn't really effective because it doesn't matter how loud we make it, that ear canal is not open, and the sound would always be dampened.
Dr. Meg Gunther is one of 14 audiologists in Wake County schools. She helps make sure Kenzie and Lily have everything they need to succeed in the classroom. And recently, she's helped them use a new kind of implanted technology called Bone Bridge, using bone conduction hearing.
Because their ear canals are not open, the bone conduction hearing aid vibrates their skull, delivering sound to their inner ear. And it's a remarkably efficient way of hearing.
Adults have used Bone Bridge for years, but as part of a clinical trial at UNC, Kenzie is actually the first child in the United States to try it.
They did very well. When they got these new devices, Kenzie got one first, and then a few months later, Lily was implanted with the Bone Bridge as well. We really saw a significant improvement in their confidence, in their ability to answer questions.
Just seeing them become more independent has been amazing.
Despite learning delays before, the girls are now thriving, learning at or above their grade levels. Their mom notices they're more active socially now, too, with Kenzie telling us her favorite thing to hear with her Bone Bridge.
My friends talking to me.
Both girls are excited to be a part of this study that will help other kids have access to this life-changing technology. And as for how school is going now,
really good. It's a big thumbs up.
In Wake County, Sydney Schofield, ABC 11 Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Dr. Taylor. We'll now hear from our board members. I will start tonight with Ms. Edmonds.
Thank you. Happy birthday, Dr. Robinson. You're welcome. Congratulations to Dr. Mariah Walker and Jose Espinal, got his last name right, for being named principal and assistant principal of the year. Shout out to, I'm going to try to do rapid fire here. Shout out to staff on the launch of the new website. We know there's some bugs to still be worked out, but I wanted to celebrate one feature. So today when I was on the website for another reason, I love the pop-up of the meetings that are happening today. It popped up on the screen for families and community members to click on the agenda and the live stream, so I really like that feature. So thank you for everybody, the whole team that worked to make that happen. And last Thursday, I was honored to join Ms. Rice and Dr. Taylor at the Superintendent's CTE breakfast, the 30th one. I've seen different names for it, the 30th Anniversary Superintendent's Volunteer Celebration Breakfast. Anyway, it's I went to it, I think, the last 2 years as well, and it's a real celebration of CTE programs and the business partners that we have in the community. And I can't say, you know, I repeat this at times, that it's just sad to me that not enough people in community realize how incredible our CTE programs are in Wake County, and these are career paths that are incredibly important. So I hope we'll continue to work hard to bring more awareness about CTE in Wake County Public Schools. I had an opportunity to attend a screening of the film The Librarians. This is a documentary about librarians in schools and in public libraries that have faced vicious attacks in recent years. And it's also a film about the general attacks on the freedom to read and censorship. I highly recommend it. It's showing at the Cary Theater in downtown Cary beginning on November 1st. The personal stories of librarians featured in this film are compelling, and several of them asked that their faces be blacked out on camera and their names not shown because of threats of violence they faced, which is outrageous to me, and I know many of you. Other librarians featured are very public and visible about their experiences and are fighting to protect the freedom to read and against book bans. So I encourage everyone to go see it if you can, and I hope it strengthens our resolve to support all librarians, those in and outside our schools, for the very important work that they do. And the last thing I'd like to lift up, so tonight during public comment specific to the reassignment plan, some speakers insinuated that we have schools that they may be going, that in the plan they're being sent to that are somehow less than. And I just want to lift up those schools as, and the people that are in those buildings, the administrators and the educators that work hard every day for every student that comes through their doors. And it diminishes, in my view, and really is disrespectful to the hard work that they do, and is dismissive of the student success that happens in those schools. And that's not to ignore the work that needs to be done, that we know needs to be done across the district, not in any one particular area. We need to help all students be successful. But I, in particular, wanted to lift up those receiving schools as perfectly legitimate choices for families. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Edmonds. Dr. Ing.
Good evening. I'll make it quick. Our next BAC meeting will be November 17th at Abbott's Creek Elementary School. Still working on some plans, but as usual, we will be inviting the community out there to listen in on some interesting topics, so more to come on that. And I also wanted to thank all the people who came out to make comments regarding the enrollment plan, and I've taken quite a number of notes. Hopefully we can get some feedback from our staff about some of those points that were made. And I also appreciate the parent who came out to ask about their homeschool child participation in public school sports or arts or whatever. And I think it's something that we have an opportunity to actually look at. I think it's a good thing to look at in terms of our outreach to the community, and if it's not too cost prohibitive, certainly it's something that would be helpful to help those parents who are currently doing homeschooling to see what good things are being done at the public school. So, there are a number of families out there who are homeschooling out of necessity, and that so it's not for some people it's not a matter of a choice. So, but if there is a way for them to see what is available for their child in public school, perhaps that will change their life so that they can accommodate their child in a public school. So, I'd like to see more in the future discussions in our work session. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Haggerty. Just for information purposes, I did just forward an email from our birthday man, Dr. Robinson, from February 4th of this year, when we had some conversations around dual enrollment as it related to athletics. Just for awareness. District 6 will have their BAC meeting at Stowe Elementary this next Monday on the 27th from 12 to 1. If I may just confirm something with the chair, that the state budget is required July 1st? Is that by state law? Do I have that right, Mr. Ramey? State law says the state budget is supposed to be done by July 1st.
The state fiscal year begins July 1, and the budget process is oriented such that the state should have a budget.
Got it.
Yeah.
I just want to make
July
sure
1.
I'm clear, because it's been approximately, and people can check my math, 113 days since July 1st. And that means that school systems, including Wake County and others across the state, are operating without knowing what possible raises teachers will get. And teachers and staff members are in our buildings doing great work and just not having any sense of what the state is going to do. Remarkably, the North Carolina General Assembly did manage to come back into session this week. Of course, it's to continue to gerrymander our state at the congressional level, at the U.S. level, which doesn't help our teachers, and it doesn't help our staff, and it doesn't help our schools. And it's really unfortunate that the talk out of the General Assembly now is maybe some small bill. And before anyone, thinks, well, maybe the state just can't afford it, maybe, there's just not enough money for teachers these days. Our local News and Observer recently reported that so far this year, and this is again despite not having a state budget, so our teachers not knowing if they're going to get any raises really this year, or anything significant for sure, the state has awarded $279.9 million this semester to their voucher program. That means they're on pace to give private schools $560 million to private schools. I know I said private schools multiple times, but I wanted it to be clear that this $560 million is going to largely, the vast majority, I would bet over 90%, of families who do not need that extra financial help. In the meantime, I think I've said it a couple of times, that our teachers continue to go to work, and our staff members, I shouldn't just say teachers, our staff members continue to go to work without knowing if they're going to get any substantial raises. And I think I think I said it's been 113 days since July 1st, and it would be nice if our state government did their job for the people of this state and for our educators and for our public schools that they are supposed to be properly funding. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hershey. Ms. Gordon.
Thank you. Before I begin, I just want to echo what Ms. Edmonds has stated about the schools and our talk about low performance. It does diminish the work that the educators do in those buildings every single day, and I understand that, and I felt that. Last week, I was able to visit more schools in the District 2 area. At East Garner Magnet School, Principal Fennell shared with me the amazing history of their school building and the outstanding amount of dedicated male educators of color that serve our students in that school. At Garner Magnet High School, Principal Price not only shared his thoughts about the success of the IB program at Garner, but I had the chance to talk to students in an IB class and heard from them firsthand on the benefits of their program. At Vendora Springs Elementary School, Principal Curtis eagerly showcased student learning environments, and Mr. Overman and I even got a treat and enjoyed some authentic foods from Columbia, so that was fun. And then at Smith Magnet Elementary School, an International Baccalaureate and Spanish Immersion program, Principal Smith celebrated how her school community is working to raise bilingual and biliterate scholars and citizens. And tonight, I'm wearing their swag. And so I've been really busy this past week. I was also able to meet with various leaders like local mayors and city managers, and we discussed how we are building our working relationship to make a greater impact. I especially appreciated our conversation about changing the narrative of school performance. Thank you to Garner Magnet High for hosting the successful District 2 Board Advisory Council meeting last week. This meeting had strong participation from staff, and a few parents who brought valuable perspectives to the table. We ran it a little differently. We introduced a new, more participant-driven format this time, which allowed attendees to actively share ideas and help shape the conversation about the district learning model. See me, know me, challenge me, engage me. Have you heard of it? Okay. The energy in the room was incredible. Educators, staff, and families all engaging together around the issues that matter most to our schools. And so I did want to say, I want to encourage more families and community members to join us at these meetings. Our advisory council meetings are one of the most direct ways for the public to share feedback and ask questions and help inform the decisions that we make as your board representatives. And just to remind everyone that meetings are open to the public. And lastly, I want to take a moment to recognize Chris Clark, a dedicated father, principal, and member of our Wake County education community, whose courage and quick action helped save his son's life during last Friday's football game between Cleveland High and Southeast Raleigh. In the unimaginable fear, Mr. Clark responded not only as a parent, but as an educator and leader who embodies calm, strength, and faith. His family story reminds us of the critical importance of being prepared, including the need for continued discussion around having ambulances or immediate emergency response on standby at athletic events. We are grateful that his son, Christian, I think I'm saying it right, is recovering, and that his story sheds light on how preparation, teamwork, and compassion can truly save lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon. Coming back around the table, Ms. Caulfield.
Thank you. Oops. I wanted to remind everyone that our municipal elections are coming up on November 4th. Early voting is currently available only at the Board of Elections. Unfortunately, our municipal races are the least amount of attendance, although it directly affects us in our communities the most. I mention this because, being on the school board, we are aware of how important it is for us to communicate and collaborate with our local municipalities, as well as our General Assembly. They do work specifically on changes and needs that directly affect our schools, as we saw tonight in public comments, how the growth has affected us in very good aspects, but also in strains in others. So as a board member, knowing the importance of good leadership, that starts with you, your voice and your vote. So I hope to see everyone out on November 4th. And I wanted to also mention that the polls have changed, the polling places. So for you to go out and check on your board of, through the Board of Elections, you could find out if your poll location has changed. So know before you go. As for the public comment today, and someone who has sat on the other side of the table for many years here in Wake County Schools as a parent, and was affected by school reassignment. I am sensitive to the changes it puts on our families and what is involved. I say this to let you know that we hear you, and we are asking a lot of questions of staff. And I really wanted to address Ms. Susan Pulliam and Glenn Carrazzo for really going through great lengths to give us the feedback from public and to allow our families to that space to actually speak to us. It is never easy to make these changes, but it is very helpful to have these conversations and to hear from you. So we appreciate your feedback and your insight as we try to figure out how to work through the growth in our communities. I wanted to address our student who came up today to speak about student voices, and I agree, it is very important. We spoke about the students who came out in the past advocating about the NICA and the skate clubs, and today, here we were in work session talking about that very subject that they brought up. We have student advisory committees. I've sat on some of them in our meetings, and the students are really great. They have awesome input. They get very involved. So it's actually great to have folks come out into public comment because it also allows us to see what they know and what they're aware of and how we can grow, but also to highlight some of the things that are available, like our student advisory committee meetings, so that our students also have a way to share their voice and that parents and family members in our community know what is available. That's all I have for tonight.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Caulfield. Vice Chair Swanson.
Thank you, Chair Haggerty. I want to start by saying thanks to Dr. Davis, who's the proud principal of East Cary Magnet Middle School, for welcoming me and allowing Dr. Davis and I to tour her beautiful campus this morning. Also want to, thank those who participated in the Walk to School Day. It was quite a few that happened in my district that I couldn't get to, but I spent the day with Laurel Park, watching families walk to school. I know the mayor of Morrisville, Mayor Colley, participated in the Morrisville Elementary, and Councilwoman Craig from Cary Town Council walked with students at the Cary Elementary Walk to School Day. So it's important to have those collaborations, and I also want to thank the town of Cary for their collaboration with the crosswalk that's been taking place in front of West Cary Middle School, and to Dr. Savage for his advocacy on this. And it's been a great collaboration. School boards do not necessarily work on roads, which was our running joke that we have had with the assistant town manager. So I'm grateful for all the collaboration that has taken place and for the community who has advocated around this and bringing this to our attention. So it is great to have great working relationships at the local level, and so grateful that the mayor's roundtable was able to take place in my absence, and so grateful for those conversations and looking forward to more of those taking place. I also want to give a congratulations to the Cary High Band for their participation and awards that they won at the 2025 Colt Classic. They took second place in percussion in the 5A class, second place in the general effect in the 5A class, first place in the visuals in the 5A class, first place in the music in the 5A class, and first place overall. Also, congratulations to the Apex High School Band for competing in the 36th Annual Festival of Bands in Fuquay-Varina. They took the following awards: second place in the percussion, second place in color guard, second place in music performance, second place in the visual performance, second place in general effects, and second place in the overall class. And so finally, I just want to thank the Cary Rotary Club, which I'm a part of, who has, under the leadership of Bill Fletcher, has over the last 10 weeks, 10 weeks and counting, I guess we can say, is participating in the Read a Book, Get a Book at Reedy Creek Elementary School. And so I've had the honor of reading with them for the past 2 weeks. It takes place every Monday, but due to the teacher work days these past 2 weeks, we have not been able to get there. But really seeing the students light up about getting books and being able to take them home and read has been such a eye-opening experience and a great connection point. And so I just want to thank Mr. Fletcher for the work that he does, advocating for kids to ensure that every kid can read on grade level, and not just talking about it, but doing the work as well. So grateful for the Rotary Club for taking that on. And that concludes my board comments. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Fletcher, you say?
Yes.
Bill Fletcher?
Correct.
That name sounds familiar somehow. We are always thankful for our former board members and their commitment to our district. Mr. Bill Fletcher and his philanthropic, works that he does for our schools. Ms. Edmonds mentioned the CTE roundtable we had with former board member Tom Oxholm, and then our great superintendent Bill McNeil, who had been there. It really is great to see so many people invested in the district, still giving back. So you heard a couple people reference the mayor's roundtable. I did want to tell you a little bit about that. That was an idea that was pioneered by your vice chair, who developed this idea. And the first one we had in some of our central municipalities, we had Ms. Gordon and Mr. Hershey there representing WCPSS with our superintendent, with mayors from Raleigh, staff from Cary. We had Garner and Zebulon, I believe. Mayor Day was there? Nightdale. Nightdale was there. And so we'd like to continue this. It sounds like it was well received and a great success. So we'll have one for Eastern Wake and our Eastern Wake municipalities, and one from our Western Wake and our Southern Wake municipalities. And I hope if you have the opportunity as board members, you'll participate as well. I thought it was a really great exchange and a great way to kind of foster that local government cooperation. We've had some board members talk about their BACs. I want to both extend some compliments and recommend to all of you. I had a wonderful BAC presentation from Miss Allison Reed and Dr. Julie Crane about AI. We've been having these AI board sessions ourselves, but Miss Reed and Dr. Crane really condensed a lot of information into a very understandable and digestible public presentation that was, we had a lot of interest in our community about it. So if you're looking for other BAC topics, I would recommend their presentation to you. It was very well received by the folks in District 7. We heard speakers tonight, and I know board members have received email, again, related to the proposed Ligon Middle School renovation. And I know there will be a lot of people with a lot of opinions about this, a lot of passion. You've heard my opinions on this, and I'm going to continue to advocate that I think a historical site in the city of Raleigh, in our county, deserves, appropriate historical preservation. I'm not an expert enough to know exactly what form that takes, but I'm appreciative of all of the efforts that we can make to preserve that rich history. Members of the community who've come out here to speak to us as in public comment, others have emailed us. There will continue to be more public comment, more public feedback that will be collected. Talked with Superintendent Taylor about this. I know that he intends to have a number of feedback sessions across the city and across the district. So we enjoy having you here at our board comments, but there'll be other opportunities maybe throughout the district, perhaps closer to some of those communities around the Ligon Middle School as well. I am the parent of 2 Ligon alumni. I will tell you, as this was my own flesh and blood, I am invested, but as you heard from even the most devoted alumni, the school needs some help. My daughter was evacuated due to toxic smoke from the theater curtains catching fire a couple of years ago, right? So we know that work needs to be done. There are serious improvements that need to be made, but I think we can do that while honoring and respecting that history. Ms. Rice was unable to join us tonight, but she is hosting her own community meeting that I promised I would make everyone aware of. It will be held on November 24th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Southeast Raleigh YMCA. That's the Rock Quarry Road location. And Ms. Rice and I believe Superintendent Taylor will be participating as well. And so that'll be another opportunity to come out and provide feedback at that event as well. And there's more information available at Ms. Rice's website that you can go to for more details and to sign up. So that'll conclude my board comments. Oh, no, wait. It should conclude my board comments, but it doesn't. I do want to go back and touch on some comments from Mr. Hershey about the state budget. And, it's one thing for people to see us up here and see us frustrated and, But I really want everyone to understand why having a state budget is so important. We know that July 1 date is, I don't think it's been met in my lifetime. But the sooner we get it, typically it's a late summer, typically it's, at worst, the fall. Used to be, but we've seen now it going on longer and longer. And why this is so important now is that we are, as a state, and all of the states in the nation, facing important and impactful cuts to federal funding. And in order to provide essential educational services, we need to know, is this something that if the state values these services as well, will they be able to step in, particularly around issues like, special education? The lack of federal funding, the cost of federal funding is compounded by the government shutdown, which is impairing even those funded federal government services from operating efficiently. And so, again, if there are gaps in educational services, will our state step in and help to fill that gap? These are important questions that parents and teachers and our communities care about. And as we have new mandates, new programs that the General Assembly has passed and enacted as a matter of law, we need to make sure that we have adequate resources to carry out those programs. So, I don't want anyone to think that we're just taking shots, because we're not. We really are trying to elevate this issue, because having that budget and knowing the resources that are available is incredibly important to our ability to plan, to react, and to continue providing educational services in our district here in Wake County and around the state. So I would just implore those members that are in town, back in session for special business today. I know our Wake County delegation has worked hard on our state budget. Again, I will indicate my preference for the House budget as opposed to the alternative we saw in the state budget, but really any budget, any agreement that they can come to that addresses these educational needs, I don't care who gets the credit, just please provide the funding for our schools that we need to move forward. And so with that, I will entertain any motions.
Mr. Chair, I move that we go into closed session to consider confidential personnel information considered under GS 143-318.11A6 and 115C 319, and to consult with the Board of Education and to preserve the attorney-client privilege as provided in GS 143-318.11A3. And finally, to consult with the Board of Education attorney to consult with the Board of Education attorney to preserve the attorney-client privilege as provided in GS 143-318.11A3 due to current litigation, T. Schmitz v. Wake County Board of Education, U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of North Carolina, and Wake County Board of Education v. E.S.
All right, we have a motion from Vice Chair Swanson to move into closed session, seconded by Mr. Hershey. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you.